listening, give the stream a like. And if you're not following, a follow would be nice too. If you can hear me, hit 1 in chat. All 145 of you. It's going to be a fun topic tonight, hopefully, so it'll be beneficial for you to hear what I have to say. Typically speaking, the stream would be very boring if it was completely silent, wouldn't it? Though I have seen those Weather Channel streams, where it's like a pseudo 90s Weather Channel stream where it just plays Vaporwave in the background. That was kind of cool too, I guess. Oh, I see a 2 there. I see how it is. Let's adjust the volume of the music real quick. Slow that down a bit. That seems like a manageable volume. Can you all hear me? There's a good mix. Hit 1 if so. Hit 2 if I'm too soft. Hit 3 if you want me to crank up that music, which is at this point smooth conversational jazz. And just smash your face into the keyboard if you just want attention. You can pretend, you can use your hand. You have to actually put your whole face against it. I don't know if there's a big smorgasbord of keys that just fill up the screen, though. And I don't know if you just hit the same key at the same time over and over. See, that user gets it. There we go, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. All right. I suppose we have no more... I've inflicted enough bodily harm upon my audience. It's time now to begin the stream. Welcome everyone once again to another one of these delightful conversations we have every week, discussing whatever's going on right now in the world. I do know I have to change this wallpaper eventually. I haven't decided on what I'm going to do yet with it. Sadly, I think my wallpaper engine has crashed and is refusing to change. So you're stuck with Usagi Tsukino for a little bit longer. So, quite the weekend it's been, huh? Not New York Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, a bunch of announcements. And what do these online grifters talk about in a world full of announcements and cool stuff? But the Odyssey again. They have nothing else to talk about. No other movies coming out this week. No major films that came out on streaming recently that should have had a theatrical release. Paramount. Nor are they talking about the new trailer for Children of Blood and Bone, which looks quite fun. I remember the book being really good when I read it years ago. Nor are they talking about the new Avatar series, though I'm sure a certain former target of discussion on this channel is definitely going to make at least 5 videos about it and regain relevance to some degree. No, we're talking entirely about the Odyssey again. With some touch upon of other topics, I'm sure. There have been some other topics of discussion I think that are relevant to talk about. No, but that being said, though, let's talk real briefly about San Diego Comic-Con, because there were some cool announcements there. And not all of them are things you might have heard of. For example, did you all know there's a new Blade Runner show coming out? And a Neuromancer show? Because I did. I was keeping track of them.
At Zypher 8677 super chatted $2. Somebody get these right-wing beggars out of here.
Get these beggars out of here. I freaking love how Rob Pattinson did that line. It's so... He was pitch perfect as the smarmiest freaking guy possible. We are also going to talk about Emily Wilson's commentary on the Odyssey as well, which is biting and controversial. Though I do think we have to discuss the backlash to that backlash as well, because it's a whole controversy in of itself. But yeah, no, there's a lot going on. But let me first talk about the two things from New York Comic. I keep saying New York Comic Con. From San Diego Comic Con that I really want to discuss. And that would be... Nope, new super chat coming in.
At Cartoon49 super chatted $5. I saw the Odyssey in IMAX 70mm and thought it was great. One of my fav movies this year so far. What were your thoughts on the film?
Well, you know what? It's relevant because it's going to be discussed for the rest of the day. Before we talk about anything else, we're going to talk about the Odyssey. So, I know the music's slightly, it's a little loud. So, that's fine. So, with the Odyssey, I think a big deal. How do I even explain this? Let me first get my overhead thoughts on it, because it's complicated. Because I'm of three minds of it. As an audience member who just watched it as a piece of entertainment, as a critic of film, and as a critic of literature. Because I have a different perspective of the film from those three angles. As an audience member, oh, it's fantastic. It's a completely immersive experience. It blew me away. It took me into a fantasy world in a way that I haven't been felt in a very long time. Not really since, I would say probably since Game of Thrones started up on TV. It felt wholly immersive, wholly almost oppressive at points, how like bleak the story was. And points. But it was also very optimistic in its ending, I thought. I thought there were some characters that were very entertaining. I gotta say right now, Tom Holland, he was getting a lot of shit for playing, I keep saying Telemachus, because I guess I said Telemachus, yeah. I keep saying Telemachus, because whenever I read the Odyssey, that's how I read his name. Oh, Telemachus. Like, no, Telemachus, I'm realizing it's actually pronounced. I thought he was really good, Tom Holland, in that. I thought it was a really underrated role. Every actor got a scene where they commanded attention. I thought, honestly, I even thought like Lupita Nyong'o as Clytemnestra was deeply powerful, and she barely had any lines. She's barely in the story of the Odyssey. She's more in the Orestia, Orestia, which is part of a major cycle of Greek plays that's often overlooked, but does have some very sexist perspectives on who's the on childbirth and all that, which is wild. But no, some good stuff there. I thought it was great. As a film fan, I'm in awe of the cinematography, the effects, the stylistic stuff. Not as big a fan of the dialogue. I think some of the dialogue was extremely clunky. The actors' performances elevated the dialogue a lot, but a lot of the dialogue felt very clunky. If these lines were read or performed by someone of a lesser talent than the caliber of actors around, the lines would come across as very cheesy. And I know this because I also rewatched the Hallmark Odyssey film this weekend. And it has a very similar script as Nolan's Odyssey does. And it comes across as extremely clunky because those actors, I mean, there's some good actors in that movie, but like, in that TV mini movie, but like, no. If Nolan did not have the best actors reading those lines, I think a lot of the movie would have lost its power, because the strength of the acting choices elevates what is ultimately some really clunky dialogue and very on the surface dialogue. But that's all right. Films can have, they can have their issues, and it can still be good. It can still be good, and it was still good. Now, as a fan of the Odyssey poem, I gotta say, I do have more thoughts, because the version of the Odyssey that Nolan adapted is wholly different in so many fundamental ways to the Odyssey epic. And that's not to say that's bad. Choices can be made. You can change your work in adaptation. You can make adjustments that are very important. However, and it's a combination of things. One's Nolan's tendency to focus more on the grounded. I'm impressed he did as much fantasy as he did, but the lack of the gods, especially Poseidon, in the narrative, I do think makes the story lose something, because it is ultimately Odysseus's pride that causes all these problems throughout the voyage. Odysseus makes several choices that deeply hurt his own crew. His own crew have problems too, but I think that by changing Odysseus from a troublemaker who gets egg on his face repeatedly, from that, he's a thief, he's a pirate, he's He's a scoundrel. He's a liar. And they do show that in the movie very effectively, but it's just different than how they show it in the poem. Because a big thing in Greek culture at the time was if you offend the gods, you're going to suffer. And that's a big thing in the poem.
At Olivia_Williams_purple_fairy super chatted $1.98. I do like the reveal of why Athena looked that way.
I agree. I think that was a fantastic reveal. But again, I'm of three minds of it. As an audience member, great. As a film technique, great. As an adaptation of the Odyssey, that's why I have issues. And that's the complicated thing about movie criticism. It makes it so, which is one reason I'm so soured on a lot of movie criticism today. Because a movie can be excellent, like the Odyssey is, and you still have critiques of it. But those critiques do not take away from the fact that the film is still excellent. That's where things get very tricky, I think. Because we have this polarizing discussion about film where we have to say, oh, it's all good. It's a 9 out of 10. Oh, it's all bad. It's a 2 out of 10. A film can be a 9 out. I think on Letterboxd I gave it like a 4.5 out of 5. I still stand by that. It's an excellent film. But there's still things that as an adaptation, it didn't do effectively. It just did differently. For example, one of my all-time favorite movies, a classic film, is the James Whale Frankenstein films. Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. Fantastic movies. Horrible adaptations.
At Otto Johnny super chatted $5. I saw the Odyssey and I agree with most of what you're saying. The way I saw Odysseus as a solitaire with PTSD returning home forever changed.
Exactly. It told a very different story. Without changing what the story really ultimately is. And that's a strength of adaptation. That's a really good thing about adaptation. You can take the same familiar old thing and not even change it all drastically, but change it in key instrumental ways, where the events can still unfold in much the same way, but it's how they unfold, those key differences, that changes things. I gotta also say, I do respect how Nolan chose to start the story in medias res, as the epic does. It starts the movie roughly where the poem starts off, with the suitors being there for years, with Calypso holding sway over Odysseus, with one key difference. The poem opens up with the gods talking. This focuses on...
At Jasonuity super chatted $10.48. Have you read Emily Wilson's An Uncomplicated Man post about Nolan's Odyssey?
We're going to read it.
My favorite part of the movie was Paige's scenes, and I wish the movie ended with the dead finally being honored.
Yes, we're going to read that right now, actually. So
at Erminita Rules super chatted $1.99. Offend the gods, get screwed.
Oh yeah, no, most Greek stories, if you're familiar with Greek mythology, any number of Greek stories focuses on you offend the gods, your ass is grass.
At Thinavo3893 super chatted $5. I understand where Nolan going, but I wish Nolan kept some element of the story. Like the nobody scene. That was iconic.
Yes, so that's my biggest singular point of adaptation where I'm upset.
At user_225_CCC super chatted $4.99. I was filling out a job application.
Good luck.
And I had to convert my resume into Nuxtaku because the portal only accepted PDFs.
Nuxtak. Oh god. That's terrible. I love that joke, but it's terrible.
At King Gargantua's super chatted $2. Guess which scene that nearly made my ears pop lol.
I'm gonna guess the your ears pop. There was a few scenes where the sound was deafening. I'm assuming not the siren scene. That was a good... Okay, the siren bit was really good. I liked how Nolan... it's really Ludwig Goswig who did the music. The scene... They have the same music play with the sirens calling as they do when Odysseus first sees Penelope for the first time. That was a nice technique. I thought that was really clever.
At user_225_CCC super chatted $1.99. That was a joke. I'm gainfully employed, thankfully.
Fair enough. Good thing Kratos killed the Olympian gods. I love that. Yeah, no. Kratos being in this movie would have solved a lot of problems or made them worse, depending. Don't know which. I don't think... when you kill a god, there's consequences. I think that no, Heracles did nothing initially wrong. It was his existence that offended Hera. I keep saying Athena. Yeah, exactly. And there were some other elements too that I wish they included. Like, I wish they had the bag of wind, but I get why Nolan didn't include that because he wanted to remove all the magical elements to it. Now, one thing I noticed a lot of people say, including Princess Weeks and Stoobs, both of whom are fantastic critics you should follow, they argue that the whimsy of the Odyssey wasn't there, and I agree. The Odyssey is not a deathly serious story. It is dire at points. It deals with death and horrifying transformations, but still. Also, and this goes without say, Cersei did nothing wrong. Cersei was entirely justified in everything she did. There'll be no Cersei slander in this chat today.
At David Leonard 272 super chatted $20. Been a bit since I was on one of your streams.
Heck yeah.
I have not even seen the Odyssey, and they have only made me want to see it more cause of how much these guys are freaking out.
It gets a solid recommendation from me. If you want my recommendation, I give it. Watch the
At
Odyssey.
Cartoon49 super chatted $2. I truly enjoy the Cersei scene.
That was a good scene. Cersei's scene was awesome. Like, that was a good body horror scene. I was surprised. Because Nolan doesn't usually do magic or the strange. I'm thinking, like, how's he going to do this? Like, okay, we're getting some Cronenbergian body horror here. I'm digging this. This is fun. I know a few people... Oh, all my homies hate Calypso. Yeah, no. Calypso sucks. Fuck Calypso. But Cersei, totally fine. Look, she's just a woman on her own, living in a hut. All these men barge in. All of them have done horrible things. And I do want to point something else out, too. The Odyssey story has some complications because it is part of the Trojan cycle, of which there are multiple different lost texts. The Iliad and the Odyssey were two parts of a larger series of works, one of which did continue Odysseus' story in a weird way.
At Jasonuity super chatted $2.09. Nolan should make a horror movie next.
Agreed. Yeah, 100%. I think Nolan has always skirted with horror pretty nicely. I think there are segments of The Dark Knight that are pretty disturbing. The Odyssey showed he can deal with some real good horror sequences really effectively. I want more high-end directors to make scary movies. I remember back when Shutter Island was coming out, people were saying it was Martin Scorsese's horror film, and I'm like, that's not really a scary movie, Shutter Island. Like, it was marketed as a horror film, but I don't consider that horror. It's more psychological thriller. I want more directors to do horror, personally.
At Itsuboy 562 super chatted $3.05. Love the filmmaking and cinematography for this film. 10 out of 10 emo.
Agreed.
Do you think he took too much whimsy out of this like he did a bit with Batman?
Yes, I do. I think he took a lot of whimsy out of this film. In his own version.
At Tom Possessed 1729 super chatted $5. The controversy over Nolan Odyssey felt unauthentic when no Greek actors were suggested, such as Tanya Soteropoulou. Instead, we get Sydney Sweeney.
Exactly, because they're not serious suggestions. They don't really get it. They don't want an all Greek cast because they want white guys in the roles, and not all Greek people look white. Not saying they're not.
At Jasonuity super chatted $2.09. Do you think Nolan should make more fantasy movies?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I think Nolan should try to expand his horizons with that. I think Nolan does good with sci-fi. He does good with historical. I would like to see him do, you know, it'd be kind of cool for Nolan if he did something like Elric of Melniboné. That would be kind of fun. Or if he did like a Joe Abercrombie novel, right? Like First Law. I think Best Served, was it Best Served Fresh? Was that the name of it? Or Best Served Cold, or whatever it was. One of the novels in the series. I think Abercrombie was having it being adapted, but I mean, I think you could do more grounded. I think more swords and sorcery would be good. For Sword Sorcery or Grimdark, I think, would really suit Nolan's sensibilities. And no one in chat say give him Berserk, because I don't think Nolan can handle that. Nolan, I don't think, would do good with a story like Berserk. It'd have to be a very specific type of epic. Could you House of Leaves? Oh, if you tried House of Leaves, no fucking way. Gore? No. Don't give him gore. Gore should not be inflicted on anyone. For those who don't know, the Gore series by John Norman, is that his name? They are truly reprehensible planetary romance novels that are very, very, very into like bondage, BDSM, but in slavery, and they're basically the writer's not so subtly veiled fetish. Please don't mention Akira. No, we're not I don't recommend. I don't think Nolan should do Akira. I genuinely don't think that would be a good idea. You could do Beowulf. I feel Beowulf's a lot more in line with what he was trying to do here, but I kind of worry that if Nolan did Beowulf, it would turn out like the Zemeckis Beowulf film. A little too much. I don't know.
At Georgie TV super chatted $3.50. What do you think of Nolan adapting the Divine Comedy Dante Inferno?
That'd be interesting, but I don't know if he would handle it with the plot.
At King Gargantua super chatted $2. Nolan adapting, remaking King Kong? Just curious.
Him doing King Kong would be bizarre. I don't know if I would want to see that. I mean, he could do a kaiju film or monster film, but I don't see King Kong specifically. That's too much heart.
At Gritom4538 super chatted $1.40. Christopher Nolan's Real Steel.
Well, we're getting Ghost Rider by the Real Steel director soon, so that works. By the way, Ryan Gosling. Okay. Sean Levy. Not sure about that. Ryan Gosling, yes.
At Eustace Giwo super chatted $5. I'd love Nolan to adapt the first volume of the Dark Horse Conan series.
I could see him just doing the original Conan stuff. That'd be really good, I think.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $5.
Stone did them.
Fun fact, the pig scene was all in camera. Samantha Morton just has the power to shape men into pigs. H. Patel nearly sued Nolan over the distress grin.
I can see that. Well, it looked like practical effects. Like, I think back to how Cronenberg did a lot of his body horror stuff. It's all puppetry and makeup and cutaways. It's none of the shots in none of the sequences looked like they used techniques that Rick Baker didn't use for American Werewolf in London.
At Bunny Concubus 8468 super chatted 29 cents. Him doing Dante like Avengers would be funny.
I'll be honest, Dante, the Divine Comedy is hard to adapt. It's not like other epics where you get this sense of events transpiring. It really is just Dante goes to a different place, sees something crazy, moves to the next place. From a story structure standpoint, it's very hard to adapt that as a cohesive story. That'd be a tough one.
At Itsuboy 562 super chatted $3.05. Nolan should do an original horror movie with the directorial gravitas and confidence of Sinners.
I agree. I fully agree. So I think Nolan, if he does his next film like Sinners, and he can include some giant monsters, because he did good with that Cyclops. That was a key scene. I can see that being really effective, I think. I can see him, watch him remake Tetsuo the Iron Man. I want to see Christopher Nolan remake Tetsuo the Iron Man. That's what I want to see. Ooh, Faust could be good. He could do Faust pretty well, I think. But let's talk for a second about an uncomplicated man. Emily Wilson's review of the Odyssey. Now, this is a very interesting review because it comes purely from the perspective of someone outside the film critical circuits. And I've been seeing a lot of pushback, especially on TikTok, about this review, with a lot of people arguing that it engages in some racist elements, that it engages in some elitist, anti-film critical perspectives. And I don't want to take that away. I think people who are calling it racist do have a leg to stand on. But I also think that people are having a knee-jerk reaction to the criticism because they like the Odyssey. You know, they like the movie, and so anyone being critical of it, they have a knee-jerk reaction to attack. Especially with how harsh Emily Wilson is in this response. Paradise Lost for Nolan. See, I think that'd be too fantastical. It'd be too bright, I think, for Nolan to do. I think it's too bright of a film. Paradise Lost, I don't know who would actually... I think the only person I trust with Paradise Lost would be someone like Guillermo del Toro, honestly. I think he could do Paradise Lost, but that's a very small number of people, I think. Now, let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Here we go. Make it a little big for y'all. Okay. Christopher Nolan's $250 million action movie version of Homer's ancient Greek poem is an entertaining way to hide from the high temperatures for a few hours. The Brits. So I don't think we can handle a British heat wave in America where it's like 100 degrees on a regular basis. Telling us some tales, my teens had a good time. Unlike some of Nolan's other films, The Odyssey is not boring thanks to the source material, which is impossible to mess up entirely. It's a family-friendly, audio-visual spectacle, like an elaborate 4th of July fireworks display, and with about the same level of narrative and emotional depth. Wow, not mincing words there, Emily. I do have to question the fact that she says it's family-friendly when, like, there's some pretty gruesome stuff in there. A lot of raping and murdering in these movies, but... As in his previous films, Nolan is interested in the discontinuities of time and space. In magic, tricks, craft, technology, rivalry, substitution, masks, miscommunication, what we remember and what we choose to forget. Yet again, survival is portrayed as a kind of triumph. Yet again, there are long, claustrophobic scenes of drowning and near drowning, and technically impressive episodes in which buildings are engulfed in flames and vehicles explode. Yet again, we watch a male character's desperate quest to recover and or avenge a female love object. I'd hope that Nolan's affinity with these Homeric themes might push him to new creative heights and enable him to conjure more believable characters. But the Odyssey features his usual combination of grandiosity and superficiality. Without a tub of wax for my ears, which Himesh Patel's ever-anxious Eurylochus. There we go. I always fuck up with names. Odysseus' doomed right-hand man uses to sail safely past the sirens. I was exposed to the full din of thumping sticks, staffs, swords, and clashing armor and thunderbolts, crashing waves, grunts, screams, toppling palaces, and burning temples. But unlike Matt Damon, the wax-free Odysseus, who is tied to the mast as he is conveyed past the sirens, naked ladies reclining on some uncomfortable-looking rocks, I gazed at the shipwrecks and bloodbaths without any agony of emotion. My eyes stayed dry, even for Argos the dog, whose adorableness as a puppy is predictably amped up to suit our animal-loving times. If only the human characters had been treated with such serious attention. I gotta say right now, other adaptations have done the Argos bit a little better. I feel like watching a dog pass away should be a little bit more emotionally powerful. Thankfully it was. In other adaptations, but he did an alright job. The Homeric epic was already an adaptation. The poem used a relatively new technology, the written alphabet, to rework existing mythological traditions, reshaping the story of a veteran's homecoming, to resonate with the complex concerns of Greek speakers in the archaic period. An era of migration, colonization, and urbanization. Some 7th century BCE Greek communities were ruled by an oligarchy, some by a single man. The poem traces the tension between the needs and desires of groups of men, Odysseus' comrades, or the suitors of his wife Penelope, and those of a single powerful and cunning man who wants to rule them all and win eternal fame for himself. In a period of cultural and technological change, it explores a fantasy of going back in time as well as space, while also showing its dangers and costs. The poem wrestles with the challenges of encountering strangers, of entering their homes, and welcoming or rejecting them from one's own. The contemporary resonances are obvious, and Nolan's movie hints at some of them, in interesting if scattered ways. But the film's vision is too confused, its characters too underdeveloped to deliver what it half promises in terms of big ideas, although it is very good at conveying big bangs and big giants.
At King Gargantua's super chatted $2. The dog's passing definitely made my dad well up.
Oh, hell yeah, because it's a dog dying. A dog dies in a movie, it's heartbreaking. And the idea of a loyal hound waiting for his master to return, loving that man so dearly he clings to unnaturally long life to see him again, that is heartbreaking. That is a genuinely hard thing to mess up. I do feel like Nolan could put a little bit more focus on it, because they kind of go from that scene to then the him to Odysseus reuniting with Telemachus, which is a little speedy, I think. But I think that could have been a little more powerful. But that's also a nitpick within a larger perspective. So, as we can see, the big issue with Emily Wilson's perspective here is she's so close to the material and so aware and richly focused on the themes of the original epic that Nolan's, by comparison, is superficial. And she's not entirely wrong. It is very hard to communicate effectively the level of emotional richness that original epic has. It's truly beautiful. And all these are themes. I think Nolan does his themes a little better than Emily Wilson indicates, personally. But they are themes all the same. There's a long one right here. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. To one of the more important sections.
At Otto Johnny super chatted $5. Unrelated, what is your opinion on Ebenezer and Johnny Depp's return?
Oh, I hate it. Oh, I hate Ebenezer. I think it's going to be terrible. And look, Ty West I like, generally. Ty West's films tend to be really good. I've been a big Ty West fan. This I don't like. I don't think this is a good fit for Ty West. I think it's going to be a complete boring movie. And it only exists, I think, to bring Johnny Depp back. But there's a reason Johnny Depp fell off, and it isn't just the Amber Heard stuff. Although that's a big factor. The reason Johnny Depp's career fell off, where so many other abusers continue on, is that people got fucking tired of Johnny Depp. That's the reality of it. Johnny Depp is not as good of an actor as he'd like people to believe he is. He is good at putting on a performance, but a believable performance is a different conversation altogether. There's a reason a guy like Christopher Nolan wouldn't hire Johnny Depp. He's too expensive, and he's too samey. He does the same shit for so often. He's always a weird... when he started playing Jack Sparrow, he never stopped playing Jack Sparrow. That's the problem. It's like with Al Pacino, when he started playing Scarface, he always kept playing Scarface. Except Al Pacino is more entertaining. By a lot. And look, he's not bad in movies where he's entertaining. He's fun as Captain Jack Sparrow, but after a certain point, you've seen enough Jack Sparrow. Like, what else can you bring to the table? Like, the Mad Hatter is not Captain Jack Sparrow. Friggin' Willy Wonka is not Captain Jack Sparrow. You know, it's like, give us a new character. His best performance is and always will be Ed Wood. That was the best he ever was in anything. His performance as Ed Wood is fantastic and proof he could act very well. He was good in Sleepy Hollow. He was good as Edward Scissorhands. He was very fun in Nightmare on Elm Street. But like, once he played Jack Sparrow, that was it. It was the biggest boon to his career and the biggest drop-off, too. And that's the problem. Sometimes a role is so successful, it destroys your career. You look at some of the best people in Hollywood, not in terms of morality, but in terms of like effective in the industry. And a lot of them did terrible stuff, but still get attention for their movies and stuff because they do different things each time. Clint Eastwood, for example, has done a lot of things in his life that are deeply questionable. But no one really talks about that, even though he's done a lot, because he brings something to the table every time. He is at once the man with no name and the good, bad, the ugly, but he's also was it not Jacob Money, Bill Money in Unforgiven, which he directed. He disappears in that role, and he's so unlike The Man with No Name. Even though they're both westerns that both take place in similar settings, completely different character. Even though he talks the same way, completely different character. And he directed that film too, so everything in that movie is his construction. Tim Burton, I think, is another example of someone who just stopped trying, I think, too. A guy who was a lot like Burton, Johnny Depp in some ways. Look at Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton could have been Johnny Depp in terms of repeating himself with Beetlejuice, but he didn't.
At It's Your Boy 562 super chatted $6.11. When talking about adaptations, I think the biggest comparison to make is with comic book movies. What do you think should be the line between being faithful to the source material and being original?
It's actually really funny you asked that question. I just was working with friend of the channel Artis on a video that they'll be putting out hopefully soon, where I actually answer that exact question. So I'm going to kind of reiterate what I said for their video. I think that the line should be we should follow the spirit of the comic, but not worry about the exact specifics. As to say, capture the vibe of it, but don't worry about adhering to the...
At Nick Wolf 3885 super chatted $5. Best bet on adapting Dante would be him realizing that he actually belongs in the deepest layer for his sins. Dante's Inferno. Turns out IATA.
I don't know if I agree with that, because Dante's whole thing is he goes to the paradise.
At Matt Sherlock 9636 super chatted $5. Are there any Disney remakes you would ever actually want? Treasure Planet could be fun, but I love Odyssey. I want more Greek myth, so I want Hercules.
I got 3 for you. Same 3 I say every time. Treasure Planet, Atlantis, Hunchback of Notre Dame. Maybe Tarzan. And I say all of those because they are unlike what we're currently getting. Especially Hunchback and Tarzan. Really, I just want more good Tarzan movies. I feel like that's a genre of, like a subtype of movie we've kind of neglected since Disney's Tarzan. And I was watching Greystroke, The Legend of Tarzan from the 80s with Highlander. It was on TV the other day. It's very dated. It's one of those movies that you appreciate as a work of art, but watching it is a very different story. Jesus, that movie is slow, like glacial. And it's not a matter of my attention span. I watch slow movies. That movie's glacial.
At critical_ideas super chatted $10. Has there ever been a movie where you were genuinely surprised by the director because it was so different from their previous works? For example, for me, it was Neil Blomkamp directing Gran Turismo.
That's one for sure. There's a few. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I'm going to forget a few because there are so many movies that directors have made over the years. I think The Straight Story with David Lynch, that's a great one right there, of a really unusual pairing that also kind of feels perfect. That's such a Lynchian thing to do, to make a movie that's completely antithetical to who Lynch is. Also, to a lesser extent, The Elephant Man by Lynch. But I think Elephant Man I like a lot more. It's a really emotionally powerful story. Who else? Oh, what was the one that Wes Craven did? The Meryl Streep one. Yeah, because Wes Craven hated doing horror films his entire career. He was good at them, but he hated making them. And after the success of Scream, he made like an Oscar bait, like musical, like an inspirational story. And I remember what's so funny is my mom loves this movie. She's seen it multiple times. I remember as a kid, I remember watching it. Music of the Heart, thank you, yes. And I'd seen that before seeing that on Elm Street, because it was just on TV when I was a kid, because it was such a good movie. And it's a good movie. It's not bad. It's a really good film. And it's just bizarre. It's Wes Craven, you know?
At DB-Do5L super chatted $10. Grifters. Conservatives aren't allowed in Hollywood. Nolan then makes an amazing conservative movie. Grifters. Not like that.
Exactly. Yeah, The Odyssey is absolutely conservative. It's a very conservative movie. We'll get to that more in a bit when we talk about the specific responses to The Odyssey. But, yeah, no, Wish with the Heart, exactly. Good one right there. Musically hot.
At Zulius the Mad Hair super chatted $5. Hunchback would be great. Since their off-Broadway version has the book's dark ending, which shows they would be willing to make a darker adaptation.
Well, I think they'll make less risks for a theatrical film, but they shouldn't.
At Gritom4538 super chatted $3.50. If they remade Tarzan but casted John Bernthal as Clayton, would you still watch?
Be bad casting, actually. I would like it to be a British guy, but yeah, that's not bad casting. I mean, the problem is, how do you replace Brian Blessed? That's the issue with like Clayton's actor, Brian. I mean, I think he's still alive, but he's too old to play Clayton. It wouldn't look like Clayton either. Brian Blessed was one of those gargantuan hams. He was also in Star Wars Episode 1 also, and every single Kenneth Branagh Shakespeare adaptation. He's a good actor, but he's climbed Everest a few times, maybe punched a polar bear. I wish there was more movies with Brian Blessed in it. You've seen Blackadder, you know how hammy he could be. Daniel Craig is Clayton. That's not bad. That's not bad That's not a bad choice. Anyway, I do want to read a couple things here that Emily Wilson said is very interesting. Let's get that real quick. Nolan's spectacle threatens to drown out his story just as the towering waves of the wine dark sea, more gray than purple, threaten to overwhelm his hero's ship. In looks, this Odyssey is often reminiscent of other 21st century screen epics, not least Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. Oop, here we go.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $5. Having seen Hadestown this weekend, Disney missed out on not fast-tracking a Hercules sequel about Hades and Persephone's love, possibly redeeming Hades.
Honestly, a lot of people did that story, so I can see someone doing that story hopefully soon.
At David Leonard 272 super chatted $2. I am sorry, he punched what?
He punched a bear in the face. Brian Blessed, supposedly. I think a polar bear.
At Matt Sherlock 9636 super chatted $2. An older Clayton works. Blessed is fit for his age.
Brian Blessed's like in his 80s and still climbing Everest. I don't know what that man's on. He is a fascinating character in terms of pop culture that I think a lot of people outside of Britain sleep on in terms of like just how peculiar he is as a figure. Okay, here's what I don't agree with necessarily. Now, Wilson's arguing that the Odyssey film is reminiscent of the Lord of the Rings aesthetically. I do not agree. That I really don't agree with. I don't think it looks anything like Lord of the Rings. I think it looks more like Gladiator. Or more like... it has more in common with Kingdom of Heaven or Gladiator than does Lord of the Rings, I think.
At Matt Sherlock 9636 super chatted $2. Oh, he can play Jane's dad.
That's an idea, actually. I kind of like that. You're winning me on the Disney doing Tarzan again thing. I like that. Anyway, the visit to the Land of the Dead reminded me of the excursions beyond the Wall in Game of Thrones. I also don't agree with that. At the end of the film, a character sets out to sail beyond the sunset, and I almost expected everyone to break into Elvish. Okay, that I get. I get that part. The film has none of the stylistic spartness of Umberto Pasolini's The Return, starring a scarred, desperate, mostly naked Ralph Fiennes, conflicted about his homecoming to a convincingly unhappy Juliette Binoche. Lacking the budget for gods or special effects, that film invited us to wonder what remains of the Odyssey and its hero when stripped down to the sinews and the hungry heart. Nolan gave us an all-inclusive buffet. Okay, yeah, the film has a higher budget, but like, it's just I don't agree with this sentiment right here. Like, yeah, would it be more visually stunning to have that? Sure, but it also is tonally a very different situation, right? Like, I think back to Castaway too, which was a big hit when it came out, with Tom Hanks. Castaway. I can see that working, but I don't agree necessarily with this perspective. Now, here's where things get more controversial with Emily Wilson, where I get where the accusations of racism come in, and I don't think they're wrong. Oh yeah,
At Ermanita Rules super chatted $1.99. Rafe Fiennes got jacked for the return. Holy crap.
Mm-hmm. 100%. 100%. He was intense in that one. Now, think we went for 18 months there. I was Nick Wolf 3885. It's always the numbers that get screwed up with on your name. Sorry. Great mouse detective with Cat's digital fur tech. Oh god. Oh, that'd be rough. Although, who could do Vatican but Vincent Price? I have a hard time with that one. Anyway. So chat.
At Matcherlock9636 super chatted $10. We should get a bunch of myth adaptations, a Hercules movie, an Iliad movie, a Atlanta movie, even Odin movie. All leading to a Jason movie, call it the Mythology Cinematic Universe, or MCU.
Well, there's actually one thing like that I think is worth discussing, and that's Emma Thompson's movie that she's working on. And it's an example right here of when I say right-wing people don't know what they're talking about, this is the best example of that. Emma Thompson is currently adapting an actual feminist retelling of the Iliad for the screen. She's working on the script, and this is how you can tell that this is a feminist reimagining of the story, whereas Emily Wilson's is not. So, the adaptation is she's adapting Pat Barker's The Silence of the Girls into a film, which is essentially about the Trojan War from the perspective of women, Briseis, a woman enslaved in a Greek camp. So again, the easiest way of putting it is, imagine if in the Odyssey, at the end of the film, they show the sack of Troy, right? Imagine if you saw that story from the perspective of the Trojans being sacked. What is my son doing? He's fine downstairs. He's fine, but like he's making a lot of noise. So the best way of putting it, it's a story about the horrors of sexual violence in war. And that's a feminist retelling because it talks about the survival and the pursuit of continuing on despite such standards. Isn't what Troy does. Well, it's a whole thing. It's a very complicated story. But it's disturbing. It's a disturbing story. Not a fun story, but it is very powerful. Anyway, on a more light note, so there are more Greek adaptations being made. And of course, it's Epic the Musical getting adapted, which is cool. But anyway, but there's nothing progressive about it. Here we go. So the race-neutral casting of Nolan's Odyssey was inevitably deplored in some quarters, but there is nothing progressive about it. Most of the non-white actors, Zendaya, Lupita Nyong'o, Himesh Patel, Corey Antonio Hawkins, Travis Scott, play versions of the black best friend, whose only role in the drama is to provide aid to the white protagonist. Scott, as an Ithacan bard, Phoebus, yells a few words and pounds a stick, but does not get to sing, tell a story, or play the lyre. The most melodic note in the percussive soundtrack comes from the plucking of Odysseus' bow, a beautiful sonic image of the archer as musician borrowed from the poem. Nyong'o's double part as Helen and Clytemnestra is hugely underwritten. She is given only a few minutes of screen time to perform a brief tableau of female victims: the outraged bereaved mother, the abused wife, the repentant adulteress. Here's the thing. So, and she goes on to talk about how these characters are written in the story. The biggest, of course, downgrade is Athena. Athena is huge in the original poem. It's partly because of her that Odysseus breaks free of Calypso's trap. The gods being de-emphasized really takes away a lot of the roles that Athena, which is one of the more active characters in the story, do. I mean, hell, the first act of the story is Athena visiting Telemachus. Telemachus. That's rough. And a lot of the discussion about the, very like pushed aside characters. On one hand, I do think all these characters play instrumental roles in the story. I do think Emily Wilson is kind of underselling the role these people play. I think that especially Himesh Patel has a lot with his character. I think he's really, really good. Really plays like a complicated kind of foil to Odysseus. I think Clytemnestra, though, I think that's really the real talent that Peter Luongo brings to the table. The Oresteia is a powerful story. And Clytemnestra really shines in that story. They kind of tease at that, but not really a whole lot in this one. But still, I think that I think she's a little dismissive of Travis Scott's role, because he does have a very distinct scene, but I don't know. Yeah, I think I agree a lot with Nick Hodgins. History Buffs, History Buff had a lot of perspectives as well. I mostly agree with what Nick Hodgins had to say. But yeah, so a lot of people were upset with Wilson's perspectives, especially with a race perspective. I recommend you watch those perspectives on TikTok, what have you. I think that people decrying it as overt, and again, the problem also is that it's still a role that's important in the story. Nolan doesn't make characters who are just the superficial black best friend type stock trope from like the 80s and 90s, which were very superficially written. There's more there. They're more active. I don't think any of the characters function in the narrative as the black best friend, who are like a sounding board for the white characters to bounce ideas off of. I think that's a little dismissive as a trope. But I do think that there is something to the point that a lot of good scenes were omitted. Especially the Cyclops. Polyphemus is really underwritten in this movie. It's actually really upsetting how little Polyphemus has in the narrative. The whole nobody sequence is one of those iconic points of the Odyssey, and Nolan changes it. And the whole point of that scene is it kind of captures Odysseus's character in one sequence. Odysseus is clever. He's a trickster. He is cunning. He is ruthless and a liar, but he's also arrogant to a fault, and that arrogance is what hurts his crew. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, but he's really not as smart as he thinks he is. Because while he is clever, he undermines his success by being arrogant. And that's a key element of who Odysseus is as a character. There's no real arrogance to the Odysseus that Nolan depicts. So that's a problem. Okay. But we've had enough of reasonable discussion. I know why you guys are here. You want to see us talk about the right-wing chuds who went crazy over this movie. And we're going to do that right now. But I want democracy to decide who we talk about first. So let's give the options. Whose Odyssey vid should we start with? Here are a couple options. Do we start with The Critical Drinker, Matt Walsh, Shadiversity, or do we go with Nerd Robotic?
Black Machine 312 super chatted $3.54. Notice how these anti-woke clowns didn't go after Obsession or Evil Dead Burn. 2 movies that dealt with toxic men and the effect they have on women.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, they talk about obsession as a tool for their culture war, which is ridiculous, but not in the way you'd think. The last option is Sargon of Akkad, aka Carl Benjamin, who has a video of his own as well. But no, they avoided the big discussions. Honestly, Evil Dead Burns, very good movie. I thought it was really good. But yeah, no, they avoided that type of plague. You know, Jazza deserves better than having that as a brother. I agree. Oh yeah, you're all going right for Shadiversity. By the way, 1 million views on the Shad video. I'm stunned. 4 months and 1 million views. That's incredible. That's incredible. I'm stunned. That's amazing. That might mean I might cross over 1 million, over 1 million, 2 million potentially. I don't know. It's really quick. It took like my Lily Orchard video, like at least over a year before it hit 1 million. Like almost 2 years. Almost like 2 years now, I think. Which is wild. Enjoy pitch meetings. I haven't seen too many pitch meetings. Are those the Screen Rant ones? Didn't Carl run for office? Yes, Carl Benjamin did run for office, and he lost badly. Okay, it looks like Shad's winning by a mile. We'll start with him.
At Nick Wolf 3885 super chatted $2. Skip Walsh and Sargon. The transphobia is rampant.
Listen, the transphobia will be rampant in all of them. By the way, I want to give you all a heads up. There is a very good chance there will be some uncensored transphobia in the coming videos. I just want to give you a heads up right now. There's probably going to be a lot of racism, probably a lot of dead naming. I have not filtered through these videos ahead of time. So you may end up hearing some dead naming. I apologize in advance. I'm not the one doing it, but we're responding to these guys, and they do it all the time. I know when watching Michael Noel's video, he dead named Elliot Page repeatedly. I just want to apologize in advance for anyone watching. But we're going to tear into these guys. So, you know, the intention will be to criticize them. I think Matt Walsh especially has a lot of dead naming. Just a heads up there. But our first video is such. Super chat.
At FDR devotee super chatted $5. Imagine having to pretend that the new Christopher Nolan movie is bad and the new Uwe Boll movie is good.
Can you imagine? I don't know what these guys are smoking if they think defending Uwe Boll will win them any points on the internet. Okay, so I'm going to pause super chats for a little bit. Please leave super chats. I'd love them. Okay, I'll let this one play. 1 second. Then I'm pausing them after this.
At Wing of Shoe super chatted $5. The steel abs armor is too modern, says Grifters. Show me the IRL 10-foot cannibals and the 20-foot tall one-eyed giants and the witches.
Oh yeah, you didn't see the real witches? Well, actually, some of them do believe witches exist. In fairness, so I have seen more than one grifter actually believe witches are still real, and not just like, you know, Wiccan. I mean, like actual like turn men into pigs witches. Oh, my son's in high form tonight. I'll check into that in a bit. Okay, so let's continue. Around bedtime, my son has started to get really rowdy. He does not want to go to sleep. He wants to stay awake. And he has like severe FOMO where he is afraid that if he goes to sleep, he'll miss something cool happening. He's been trying to go outside more, and he's been like really wanting to like experience everything late into the night. So he's been like, at night, he's been a little rough. So, you know, we'll see. Anyway, Night's Watch, let's start.
All right, gentlemen. The time.
Okay, who do we got here? We got Literature Devil. Returning champion to the channel, Literature Devil. And who is that Mike? That's who is that guy? Is that John A. Douglas? Who's this guy? Oh, yes, okay. So he's a rando. Epic fantasy author. Okay. Okay, but we have Literature Devil again. Old fan of the channel, Literature Devil. By the way, that video is almost crossed 100,000K too, so there you go. So we got 2 for 1. Well, 3 for 1. This is other fancy writer. So we got 2 writers, and we technically, Literature Devil's a writer, supposedly. So we'll see how that goes. He's like a teenager. He's not a teenager. He's a little kid. He's a little tyke. But listen, if you ever had kids, you know that the difference between a teenager and a 9-month-old is it's very small difference. Anyway, back to this. No, we didn't miss anything. Let's go right now.
Has come. Let us discuss.
Okay, I'm going to put these guys at a little bit of a faster pace because they are slow. I'm also going to put the subtitles on. Wait. On. Auto-generated. Playback speed. Let's go with 1.5 because he's slow. Slow is in like he takes a while to talk. And options. Let's make the font a little bigger. There we go. Cool. Everyone good? Let's begin.
See, the greatest film ever made, apparently. It's like, no joke. I mean, we'll talk about like in its own segment, but higher review scores than The Lord of the Rings.
That's totally legit.
Yeah,
the movie was that good.
No. Let's discuss it then. So,
hang on a second there. Is it higher than Lord of the Rings? Let's actually break that down, shall we? Let's look. Let's be fair with that statement, Chad, because I think you're right on one sense, but not. Oh, Spider-Man Brand New Day, 90% Rotten Tomatoes. That's pretty good. Let's look at that for a second. So let's look at the Odyssey real quick, and let's bring it Lord of the Rings. Let's bring up the first one. Let's bring up all of them. Why not? All results. So the Odyssey and Lord of the Rings. Let's look at that for a second. So this is obviously very small. So I mean, it's more than War of the Rohan. So the Odyssey here. This is really, why is it so small? Okay, 80? Nah, it's too small. Okay, let's bring it a little closer. It's okay, cool. You're all zoomed in. So the Odyssey has a higher average tomato meter than the Fellowship of the Ring. It has the same as the Return of the King and lower than the Two Towers. However, I think that you're going to notice is this. Actually, let me take a look at that. So there's more reviews for Lord of the Rings for audience scores. And also now let's look right here. So here's a new function, the average of rated reviews. So the average reviews put the movie around 8.7. One second. For here, come on. There you go. However, the average of rated reviews for Lord of the Rings is 8.8. So on that metric, even though the average there are more there's slightly more of a ratio. 8.7 versus 8.8. Very different story. On the other hand, the average rating for okay, so that's a little more recency bias. There's more audience score. People get hyperbolic. Lord of the Rings has also had more time to brew, which means the negative backlash. Lord of the Rings has more time to influence the average viewer score. However, it also has 25 times more audience points, and it's still holding at 95%. That is exceptional. So even in the one where it kind of is true, it still is lower than Lord of the Rings. So Shad, you're already wrong. We're starting off great so far. Let's keep going.
I have very strong thoughts. I haven't heard, gentlemen, what your thoughts are. I hated this film, and I think it's complete dog crap. But that's me. Gentlemen, what did you think of The Odyssey?
I caught it, in a manner of speaking. I probably did miss out on the kind of spectacle. Watching it the proper way would have given it to me, but I would have felt cheated if I had done that, because what little good there was in the movie is far outshined by the stuff that is bad or nitpicky or just flat out wrong by it.
What do you mean you caught it? You mean you pirated it? So you didn't watch it in the theater? Yeah, it's like, oh, I watched it without buying a ticket for it. Okay, that's certainly a way.
Its narrative is this is one of those. This is what kind of like the Wheel of Time, right? Where the broad strokes only work when you get the small strokes right, and they got a lot of the small strokes wrong. The nobody aspect of the encounter with the Cyclops being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this parses down to Nolan's decision to take the gods and as much of the myth and gods out of the movie as possible to try and ground it, which is frankly starting to become his biggest weak point in his movies. He has big ideas and takes on big projects, but he tries to parse them down to as human a level as possible, and it's starting to make his more fantastical projects feel very wrong. I like the Batman trilogy, but that was so parsed down, it was practically just a crime thriller with an occasional shot of a guy in a bat suit. And that's kind of what this suffered from too. It felt like it wanted to be more of a military fiction movie than it did an actual gods and monsters mythological journey.
Well, there is that. I actually think the purpose behind this film is far more subversive and ideologically based. I think so much of this film has been trying to twist and warp the old tale to fit an ideological narrative and message. And when message about when it gets into things of immigration, men bad, feminism, all of that is
okay, hang on a second. Let's take a step back here for a second. Immigration, men bad, and feminism. Okay. Shad is saying that the movie that apparently takes away the role women play. You're talking about a movie, Shad, that removed the vast majority of scenes for the female characters out of the narrative. But that's feminism, apparently. The thing with the Odyssey is that Nolan actually glorified Odysseus more than the poem does. There's no point where Athena tells Odysseus you're a moron and just abandons him for stretches of time. There's no point where Odysseus' own actions actually cause direct problems for everyone else. The only scene I think Shad might be talking about is the Circe scene. But how is that? But that's in the book too. That's in the original poem. So it's like, what are you getting at, buddy? What are you talking about? The movie's not feminist. There are barely any female characters in the movie. They actually take away women from the story. I mean, Nausicaa's not there. Calypso's role is greatly diminished. Penelope, her role is powerful, yes, but mostly removed. Very, very minimal. So you kind of go, also, men bad, well, what are you talking about? They just depict male soldiers as violent, but they also depict a lot of men as good. It's Odysseus's faith in his men that drives him to continue trying to save them. There are multiple scenes where Odysseus tries to fight for his men, where he hears Calypso, Circe's argument that his men are pigs and should be left there, and he argues, no, they're not. The film has an ideology, and the ideology is centrist conservative. It's the idea that there was this great past, and we have ruined it by breaking these very Christian-inspired ideas of hospitality. Like the idea of Zeus's law, do unto others, basically, as you would have done unto yourself. That's not in... it's a concept that the gods can just walk in. In the Odyssey, for example, Athena just shows up in places, and she's just there, and that's Zeus's law right there. But the way it's presented in the story feels very much like kind of an idea of... almost a Christian idea, I'd say, of do unto others as you'd have done unto you, which is very, very Christ. But again, let's keep going.
Crammed into this film in, actually, I would say subtle ways. So subtle that it's not like Barbie where it beats you over the head with the ideology, and a lot of people are missing it. But when you're like, you pay attention, or you don't have to pay attention too much, because some of it is kind of blatant, like the whole Zeus's law kind of thing, be kind to strangers and stuff, and then it plays into other things. But I won't go crazy too much on it. Litdev, have you been able to see the Odyssey?
Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I'm in the middle of this movie. Like, it's just, I talked about this morning. People were like, we don't know if you like it or hate it. But there's some parts of so look, Christopher Nolan is very pretentious.
What do you mean you're in the middle of it? Did you watch it in theaters or did you pirate it? Like, these guys always fucking pirate these movies. They don't fucking watch it in theaters. That's the thing too. It's like, no one cares what you think about the film if you're not going to pay money to go see it. So again, it's the principle of it. You don't want to spend the money, I guess, on a ticket. But again, like he says, oh, Zeus's law, it's subversive. Like, well, I mean, it is, but not in the ways you think. It's more American, it's more Western conservative than it is anything else, but I digress.
Creator. But if you like his style, I think people will find things to enjoy about it, because when it was allowed to be the Odyssey, it was a lot of fun. I thought it was pretty entertaining. I thought the pretty cool, it was a pretty cool scene that they added in there where they're inside the horse. I thought that was pretty interesting, kind of a war story. But yeah, it is more like a war story than the Odyssey. I think it's stripped down to physical elements.
You're touching on something interesting, important in relation to the discussion of this film, because to me, that scene could have been really interesting and really cool, talking about the difficulties in the thing. But you know what ruined it for me? Is the fact that when they show the inside of the horse, they show that there is plenty of space around them and above, and they're just letting guys drown underneath them, and they're trying to say, there wasn't any room, we had to get them to breathe through straws. And what you're showing me is actively contradicting what you're saying. What you're showing me is that you could have just lifted them up, and they would have been fine, and you just let them die.
Shad, where were they going to be lifted up from? They're on the whole thing is that as the water pours into the horse, the water pools inside the horse. The horse is half submerged in the sand, buddy. Where are they going to stand up from? There's not plenty of room in the horse. They're taking up all the room. The only room you have there is that they aren't like cramped and bodily and cramped up in that. There's not exactly enough room for multiple people to pull themselves up, and there's nothing to stand on top of because the horse is submerged in the sand. Like, what are you talking about, buddy? They have to be there. They have to be submerged because there's no other space for them. Yeah, there's open air gaps, but they're standing on top of each other to reach that point. They have to stand on something because the horse is tilted entirely. Like, usually in these depictions of the Trojan horse, the horse is usually seen standing on its forefeet. In this, it's perpendicular to the ground. So it's half submerged, and the water spills in as the tide comes and falls. Some of the water pools up and takes up space. If they were in the horse before, they don't have every single ounce of, like, every single square inch of that thing filled with body. It'd be ridiculous. So, if it's perpendicular and there's nowhere to stand on, the only thing that they can stand on top of are the shoulders of those beneath them. Someone has to be under the water, is what I'm saying. Like, it's just how it is. And, like, again, we have Shad getting so angry about a detail nobody gives a shit about. Let some superstats play real quick.
At Jordan Thomas 4379 super chatted $2.09. Metatrons has made 90 videos crying over the movie.
Oh God, even more. I counted 52. I know there's more, but I didn't count them all.
At J1MB0MB super chatted $4.99.
Oh, thank you. I have those messages attached to it.
At KJ Zana super chatted $2. Off topic. Today is Peter Cullen's 85th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Peter Cullen. That's incredible. Oh man, that's like the voice of my childhood there. One of the many.
At user_225_CCC super chatted $1.99. Imagine if Shadiversity uses AI to become Shadman.
Oh God, I hope not. That's a scary thought.
At Maryland 614 super chatted $4.95. The depressing thing about Shad is that you didn't speed up the footage.
Oh, I did though.
He just goes full Alvin when he goes into rant mode. La Chudmonk.
I love La Chudmonk, but I did speed up his footage a little bit. But still.
At Pandamani super chatted $5. You stand atop the other men, then you lift the guy under you up. It's classic bootstrapping.
Yeah, when you put it that way, they just stand on top of the air. Is that right? Or they freeze the
At
water.
Nick Wolf 3885 super chatted $5. Now I'm picturing Shad watching the animated Titanic movie with no rapping dog because there were enough lifeboats. 'Cause how dare bad things happen?
Exactly. I'm like, well, they didn't exactly. I'm gonna pause super for a bit. Yeah, exactly, because bad things happen, and you just gotta deal with it. And so, like, I don't get what Chad's doing. It makes no sense. This is a non-issue. The horse clearly was submerged in water. They occupied it with enough space people, and they just kind of got submerged in it. Also, the idea of it being a military story I find interesting, because the only military-esque things about it are the Trojan War scenes, and that's not really detailed in all that much military detail. It's more just like they went to war, and they fought, now they're returning home. I don't really see it as a military story. It's more of a fantasy survival story with war involved, you know?
I didn't know why the horse is half buried in the sand. That's
exactly. Why did you leave the horse out buried in the sand to actually have people die? This is the horse right here. It's like, hang on, that's like a really like high quality bit of carpentry, except especially the shaped legs. It's like telling me like guys on the beach were just, carving out and polishing these shaped legs and horses for, ages, when they were there for 10 years fighting, going through hell, and they made this immaculate horse. It was like, that's a perfect example of, I think people are getting...
It sank in the sand because it was left on the beach. The only guy protecting the horse was Sinan. He expect like freaking Sinan to like unbury the horse as the sand rose above it. You ever have like a sandcastle by the tide, as the tide comes in, tide comes out? The sand kind of starts to bury it as the sand is thrown from the waves over it, and the heavy object sinks into wet sand. It wasn't buried by hand in the sand. It sank because the Trojans didn't come to it for a few days. Like that's obvious. It's basic physics. Have you ever been by a beach, Shad? You ever see those little abandoned baskets they use for or shovels they use for sandcastles? They do sink in the sand, not because the kids buried them necessarily, but because the water throws sand over it. Jesus Christ. Also, it looks fucking cool. That's the other factor at play. This is funny as hell. This is why I love covering Shad. It's like so oafish in a kind of funny way.
Fooled by, I guess, the presentation of stuff without noticing, not like... When I say substance, I'm saying the lack thereof, the stupidity that's underlining it. I am kind of perceiving this film as, and I think it's actually a very clever bit of audience manipulation on Nolan's part. I think Nolan has like purposely cultivated this type of stuff where he actually wants things to be so confusing that people think that the real meaning must be something good, meaningful, deep, but because they can't figure it out, they just give it the grace or, leeway and assume that it is without actually unpacking it. Because, like, who can make sense of Tenet? It's beyond our comprehension.
Oh, hey, Andrew, what's going on? Yeah, I see you in the chat, Andrew. Like, what are you fucking talking about making confusing? It's obvious what the fucking film's about. There's nothing confusing here. Like, were you confused by the Odyssey? What are you talking about? There's nothing confusing. What's confusing about it? It's one of his least confusing movies. It's not Tenet. Like, it's pretty obvious. Guy goes to war. He comes home. What's confusing about it? They actually simplified the story a little too much for my tastes. That's my big issue with it. Like, what's confusing? What's confusing about it? It's they even make Agamemnon. I can never say his name right. It's one of the big tongue twisters for me. Into the big bad Darth Vader of the movie, just to make it completely clear he's the bad guy. like what are we doing here? What are you talking about? Confusing. No, and listen, Nolan's films are not confusing. Tenet's confusing because it's badly made. I'll give him that. But most Nolan films, once you know what's going on, they're pretty straightforward. Nolan doesn't make movies like, say, he doesn't make movies like, say, David Lynch. David Lynch makes confusing movies. David Cronenberg can make confusing movies. Like Videodrome, that's a confusing movie. It doesn't make sense because it's not designed to make sense. Nolan's films have a very, very specific structure and logic to them. And the big logic is misdirect. It directs your attention away from if you watch Prestige, it tells you everything you need to know about Christopher Nolan. He loves doing misdirects, either audience blind misdirects or character blind misdirects. As to say, either the misdirect is for the audience to get like their attention turned away from, or it's for the characters to be misdirected. And the audience is aware of the trick being played in front of them. They can see all the things in sequence. For example, in The Dark Knight, Batman believes that Rachel was going to go back to him, but Alfred burned the letter that was going to go to Bruce to tell him that Rachel was going to end up with Harvey Dent instead. And that is that's a technique for the audience to see, but the characters not to see. Whereas in the Inception, the entire thing about the nature of Cobb's, that's his name? Not Cobb's. Leonardo DiCaprio's character, how much time he spends in limbo with his wife, that is to the extent the audience doesn't know that until we are informed about it. And also the Prestige itself is that technique both for the audience's sake and for the character's sake, both at the same time. I think Prestige is one of his best movies, honestly. More so than in Interstellar, I think. I think The Prestige is Nolan's most underrated film. Because you learn everything you need to know about Nolan by watching The Prestige. That tells you all the tricks of the trade he employs. But anyway, yeah, the Odyssey's not confusing, so I don't get what Chad's talking about. It makes no sense to me.
Engine, so
it must be smart.
It must be smart, right? And so I liken this film almost to like the modern art of cinema, where it's actual garbage, but it's presented on the wall, where people are looking at it thinking like, there must be something special about it because everyone else is saying it's special and Nolan is great. And so I mean, it kind of looks pretty, but they're not realizing it's actually just crap smeared on a canvas with a pretty, screen on top of it. They're distracted by the pretty screen without realizing that this is actually just absolute feces smothered on a canvas presented as art. That's my take on the Odyssey so much.
Dude, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Jesus. Okay. Do you think Nolan is making like esoteric filmmaking? Nolan? What's the one director's name? He did Begonia this year. He did Dogtooth. That's more esoteric filmmaking. That director. He's more esoteric and otherworldly and unusual. That's more esoteric, and even that's more mainstream enough to get modern attention. He's not freaking like Ari Aster. He's not like, what are you talking about? Like, Nolan is successful. Oh, Yorgos, thank you. Yorgos. Nolan's successful because his films have mass appeal. That's what it is. His films are widely appealing. They're spectacular. They are usually very clever in how they structure the narrative to put the most interesting thing in front of the audience at all times. There's never a dull moment in a Nolan film because he chops them up a lot. I think honestly to his negative. I think he cuts too much out of his film sometimes. And Nolan's films are not always good. I think The Dark Knight Rises, for example, is not a good movie. I think Tenet's not good. Hot take, I like Interstellar less than a lot of people do. Because I've seen a lot of sci-fi, so I've seen it done better. All the elements of Interstellar done better elsewhere. I think Project Hail Mary did a lot of what Interstellar did much better, in terms of the space adventure than The Last Stand of Mankind and all that stuff. 2001 Space Odyssey, all did the same thing there. I think Dunkirk was not a great movie. So Nolan does not always hit the bar for me. I think Nolan is a film director where some of his films are excellent and some of them are just okay and some are bad. But they are all very watchable movies. Even when I think Nolan misses, it's a very entertaining miss. You still are caught up in the motion of the narrative because it is so, the momentum is carried by the direction, the acting, the music, all that. So I don't really see eye to eye with Shad on this one. And people criticize Nolan's films. They criticize Dunkirk. They criticize Tenet. It's not really like modern art where you have to have where you are only the sophisticated go and look at it. There are a lot of filmmakers like that. Nolan's not one of them. He's very mainstream, honestly. Anyway, let's hit some super chats play real quick.
At Bernard_CK super chatted $5. For someone who defended the double-bladed sword, he sure doesn't like the rule of cool.
He doesn't. No, it's only when he likes it.
At user_225_CCC super chatted $1.99. I want KK Mashin to make 18 plus spicy disart of shad.
Kiki Bashin. Oh God, Lily would have a field day or hate it. I'm not sure which.
At Zypher 8677 super chatted $5. To be fair, based on Shad's book, he must need every single detail in a story to be explained in order for readers to understand 100% all of the time.
God, the way he explains basic shit in that book was painful. That was hard. That hurt.
At Zulius the Mad Hair super chatted $2. The other guy looks so disinterested of Shad RN.
Yeah, I think this might just be his vesting face. I don't know who this guy is all that much. He's a new guy.
At Lupin the Maelstrom super chatted $2. Shad is just Mormon Aaron Hansen with no charm.
No, don't say that. Aaron Hansen would never do Shadow the Conqueror.
At Lightning Tiger 7721 super chatted $4.99. What do you think about the theory that this version of the Odyssey is a metaphor for American imperialism?
It's not a bad theory. Sounds more like an interpretation than a theory, though.
At David Deister 4145 super chatted $10. Everything in the Odyssey was like an episode of The Twilight Zone, if it was given a bigger budget, and I loved every scene of it.
I like that. Actually, one thing I like is all of Nolan's films are Nolan trying to figure out why his brother in the secret, who's a spy, did all the shit he did.
At user_225_CCC super chatted $1.99.
Wild stories there.
I'd pay to see a Shad quartering bikini mud fight.
Chat, are we okay? Are you guys okay? Do you all need like a hug or something, or like therapy? Why would you say that? Fair enough. Maybe he laughs. I guess I did the trick. Okay, we're done. Okay, let's keep going. On that note.
I can break down many elements. Like, I think this film is an abomination on multiple levels. And if it was just bad on even one of those levels, it probably would have ruined my enjoyment for the film. But in culmination, it has made me passionately hate it. But like, let's start with a surface level thing that doesn't mean a lot for a lot of people. Historical accuracy. This film is an abomination on nearly every level.
Well, the accuracy was off.
Shad, are you under the impression that Helen of Troy really existed? Okay, let's be perfectly fair. The Greeks did not depict an accurate version of events in the Odyssey to history. In depictions of Odysseus in the art in ancient Greece, which, by the way, was more 5th or 6th century BC than the 16th century BC when this is supposed to take place, they depicted Odysseus with armor that was very different than what he would have worn in that time period. The Odyssey takes place roughly before the Greek Dark Age. And a lot of the depictions of ancient Greece from that time period depicted it with, the armor was different, of course, all that was different, all the armor was different. But the ancient Greeks depicted armor throughout their entire history very differently. Odysseus was always designed in art to look like a then contemporary Greek soldier. Because the point of the Odyssey was culturally to place yourself into the past. It was the common tie between lived memory and the history. So the Greeks would often depict Odysseus and their heroes in contemporary armor to the times. In part because, and this is kind of wild to think about, so much history passed for the Greeks that the Greeks forgot their own history. That is a true statement. They are leagues of time in ancient Greece that are just completely, there's nothing there. We don't know what happened. They regained an alphabet and a language at the end of the Dark Age of Greece. So, there you go. Hell, even the Ennead kind of forgets that the Bronze Age didn't have ironworking. So, there you go.
Oh, it was
all over the place.
One of the worst period films I have ever seen. Guys, like this was the armor of the Trojans. Like it looks like it's made of foam. It looks like what the hell even is this crap? But ironically, this was like some of the first armor we see on the screen from the Trojans, and this is one of the biggest pieces of crap I have ever seen. But this is indicative of most of the armor that we see from Odysseus to the hunting clothes that we see from the other king. Oh, and the Batman armor for the king. Like all the things that we saw from the trailers, were confirmed to be so atrocious and worse. Like
it looks cool, dude. Like, what do you want to do about it? Yeah, it's inaccurate, but who cares? It's fantasy. It looks cool. It looks functional enough. So that's fine. Besides, Troy has the same problem. The Troy armor is also inaccurate. So you can't celebrate, it's just less stylish. The fact that the armor looks so unrealistic in the film is actually kind of a sign to the audience to just fucking roll with it. History be damned. Let's just go with it.
This is what they could have had. They could have a muscle cuirass, like something historical, but instead they went with
intricate little nipples,
garbage. Just this armor alone is so bad I'm near speechless. This is as bad or worse than the Witcher penis armor or the
power. You stole that from the ball sack armor.
Ball sack armor, no joke.
That at least had detail to it. Interesting, I don't say interesting. It wasn't that interesting, but it had detail that was just not.
You like looking at men's bulges there, buddy? I'm kidding. Hey, it's fine. It's cool. It's fine. It's cool. But I will say this: the armor being ridiculous. Whatever, I've criticized that too. But whatever. There's bigger problems to worry about. I'm more concerned with whether or not the film is a compelling human narrative than if the armor looks completely accurate to history, especially, as I said before, considering that the Greeks also changed the way the armor looked in their own narratives. So let's keep going.
Present. The Giants, I forgot what their names were. Their armor was so bland and it looked like untextured PS2 graphics. And why was their armor more like this was the Bronze Age? Why was there forged steel in this?
They're giants. They don't exist. That it's fantasy. That's why.
Present.
Oh, we'll get to that. Again, yeah, we've got steel, futuristic looking giants on an island that are just apparently just.
They were wearing Italian Renaissance armor. It's Sicily. They're wearing Italian Renaissance armor. It's meant to kind of connect to that. Again, that's a small thing, small detail, but it's also fantasy. It's not real.
Sitting on the beach wearing it, waiting for people to arrive to slaughter them for no apparent reason. Just, you're here, we're gonna kill.
They're not on the beach. They're in the woods, and they come because the kid calls them. It's in the movie. They find the kid. She screams. They all come out and chase after you. That's what they're there for. And they're cannibals, so
and we're wearing our battle grade fighting armor, just hanging around, just wait for people to arrive. It's retarded beyond belief. The boat, which it's there throughout the entire film, is a Viking longship. It's not a Greek ship at all. The walls of Troy are puny. They're only 20 feet tall. You could actually assail that with ladders. These are not the unassailable walls of Troy. The door of Troy is paper thin. The archery, no one knows how to hold or shoot a bow at all throughout this.
Hang on, let's talk about that for a second there. How high were walls back then? Castle walls height. So the medieval castle... Okay, so he says 20 feet tall, right? In medieval Europe, the traditional walls were between 20 to 40 feet. So, Shad... Sieges in history would often take years, months, if not years, to complete because no one could get to the walls. Those walls were 20 feet tall in the medieval era when we had better weaponry. What do you think's going to happen? To say nothing of the fact that they could just, use archery or weapons to make them impossible to assail. You don't just they have means to defend the walls. You know, that's how it works. So it's like, come on. And yes, I know he keeps saying the R word. Unfortunately, by this point, I'm so desensitized to Shad's bullshit. I did give you guys warning. You're going to hear some not so nice words being said by these people. So that was your warning. If you're coming in late, you missed a warning. So I'm sorry. Anyway.
Film! Like, some of the swords were all right. That's all I can give it. But
I love how even the auto-generated subtitles are in all caps.
That this film, from an accuracy standpoint, is one of the biggest pieces of crap ever. But hey, sometimes you can just push that to the side and enjoy a good film. Let's talk about some of the actual more substantive plot points of the film, because holy crap.
I have a question, Shad, because I am much more historically illiterate than you are. The thing on top of the helmets, right? The fins. I thought that was something from the Roman era, not the Bronze Age.
I would actually want to look that one up just to confirm. You might have a point there.
It may just be I associate that style more with Roman armor, so I'm okay with being wrong. I just
there's some overlap between Greek and Roman, so that's one I actually want to look up and double check. But oh gosh, I'm just seeing this picture. Let me save this image and then bring it up, because just the armor.
That one suit of armor that looks like it came from like Star Wars or something. It looked cool. It just didn't look like it belonged in this movie.
Exactly. That one was
right there. It looked cool. That's the only thing that matters. That's it. That's the only thing I gave a shit about. Did it look cool? Yeah. Was it historically accurate? No. Who gives a fuck beyond that? The average person does not know the difference between a 15th century and a 5th century Greek set of armor. The average person has no idea. That's it. That's all that fucking matters. No one cares. No one gives a... Not even the historians care. That's the reality of it. I've seen multiple historians. I've had recordings for my videos. No one gives a fuck that the armor was inaccurate. Not really. You're making a much ado about nothing. About jack fucking nothing. No one cares. No one cares. No one gives a fuck. That's the reality of it. They care if it looks convincing for the scene. Does it seem plausible? Yeah, that's fine. When people complain about armor in movies, it's usually because the armor looks stupid or impractical. But then again, some of the most impractical armors in history were real. And it was just too stupid to even consider putting into film. Like the codpiece stuff, that's all real. They made codpiece armor. It was all dumb. It meant to intimidate your foes, making your testicles look massive. This is real. This is a real thing that certain sets of armor did. They had like engorged manhoods to intimidate the opponent when they mainly look like you're compensating for something really, tiny. So that's a factor right there.
Atrocious. This one here is Odysseus, right? And so this is what he's wearing throughout most of the film, and it just looks like crap. Looks like unfitted crap.
They could have made him look. He's the king of Ithaca. They could have made him look a little bit more
ornate. Give something ornate,
like as.
Wait a second. Is the problem it doesn't look realistic, or it's not cool enough for you? Keep in mind, this is a guy who's been fighting for 10 years in Troy. There's a good chance his armor just got damaged or broken or stopped fitting. That's also a factor. He could have come in dressed in the most fanciest armor of all and left in armor that was ill-suited because he's been malnourished and starving on a beach. Let's be blunt about it.
Inaccurate as the armor in Troy was, I would prefer that 100 times more than this just cheap, unfitted, slop. It's fantasy garbage slop, right? That's we have for their armor. I mean, the sword, it's kind of, it's all right. But it could be better. And also they look a bit too wide as well. There are things that actually talk about in regards to the swords. Okay, but no, let's talk about the plot. So the film basically kind of kicks off with...
Well, Shad, here's the problem. We've seen what your armor looks like, buddy. I don't think you have any right to make fun of the artistic talents of any costume designer when you do your armor outfit like the way you do. Like, Shad, you're a LARPer. You're a LARPer. Let's just get that out of the way. And I mean that not necessarily in the way that you're a fake, though you're also a fake, but you partake in LARPing. And that's fine. LARPing's cool. But foam swords and foam armor are not a background to understand what it takes to make a good-looking armor on film. that does not draw attention to itself in a set, because this version of Odysseus is not as arrogant as his book counterpart, as his poetic counterpart, I should specify. Okay. Let's play some super chats. Sorry.
At Otto Johnny super chatted $2. Imagine Shad directed the Odyssey.
Oh God, I wish. But they keep saying, "Oh, Mel Gibson will direct an Odyssey film." I want to see you try.
At SM Jida super chatted $10. Personally, I really liked the movie, but as a really good Nolan film, and less as an adaptation of the Odyssey.
Best way to think
I
of it.
think the story works best as a colorful and fantastical miniseries.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see a bigger budget version of the Hallmark one. But that's the same length as
Ojolono 00 super chatted $1.98. Grifter. Makes video. Announcer. Next on TMZ.
Basically. Next time on TMZ.
At Maryland 614 super chatted $4.95. Ant. Who better to portray Greeks than Northern Europeans?
Basically, right? That's what it is. Who better than the
At user
Europes?
_225_CCC super chatted $4.99. I'm pointing this out as an Asian guy. They never complain this hard about historical accuracy when it comes to movies set in Asia.
Oh, yeah.
Orientalism who?
Yeah. Well, look at all the adaptations of like the various warring states period in Japan.
At Media Breakdown
Go wild.
8963 super chatted $4.99. Real-life fake wizards somehow turned this film existing into Hollywood being hypocritical about authentic and diverse representation. Because Greeks.
Jesus, that guy's a clown. I can't wait to
At
hear from him.
Maryland
He's funny.
614 super chatted $4.95. I haven't watched it yet. But the film sounds like a Greek play but on film.
Yeah.
It sort of makes sense to look at it like theater instead of documentary.
Mm-hmm. No, agreed. It is theater. It's all it is. And it draws from theater,
At
too. with the
Zypher
Odyssey.
8677 super chatted $2. Greeks invented theater silly costumes are expected.
Oh, yeah. You ever see a classically Greek costume for a theater production?
At Eustace
Wild.
Giwo super chatted $5. Boy Shad really liked doubling down on his bad, unpopular takes even though his Mario movie trailer react destroyed his career and reputation.
Oh, yeah. That really was what did it. When, no.
At Matcherlock 9636 super chatted $5. Odysseus described as wearing a boar's tusk helmet.
Mm-hmm.
A helmet decades out of fashion by the time of the Trojan War.
Mm-hmm.
Homer put it there for rule of cool.
Exactly. He also said the sea was wine dark, which is not like
At
actual.
Ojolono 00 super chatted $1.98. Ant. Nobody cares. A certain someone. I care.
Yeah, right. I care.
At Zephyr Hash 2 super chatted $4.99. I was apprehensive about the Black Age Memnon armor, but I gotta admit that when they opened the gate with him standing there was pretty hardcore.
Oh, such aura farming. He just casually walks in like he's Darth Vader.
At Kelly 2039
So
super
badass.
chatted $4.99. One of the main lessons my middle school taught about the Odyssey was it was an oral tradition that changed all the time with no true version.
That's 100% correct. The big thing with the Odyssey is it was oral tradition. We don't even know if Homer was one person or a group of people. We really know nothing about what version of the story existed prior to it being written down in the Odyssey. Hell, we don't even know if the Homer that wrote the Odyssey was the same guy who wrote the Iliad. We don't know. It's not like with Shakespeare where it was a specific guy who existed and ran a troupe and was interact with people. The Homer is as a mystery. Virgil was a guy. We know who Virgil was, but we don't know who Homer was. And I think that's really interesting, I think. Okay, so I'm going to take a brief pause right now. I'm going to pause supers. I'm going to run to the lavatory. When we get back, we're going to be seeing more madness. So, won't take long. Be right back, everyone. Okay, I have returned. Okay, we're back. This music can be paused though. So, a couple of super chats came while I was away. Let me let them play right now.
At Olivia _Williams _purple _fairy super chatted $1.98. Shakespeare? You mean Francis Bacon, right? Joke.
Yeah, no, I bet they probably believe in that whole thing.
At Matcherlock9636 super chatted $5. Something people need to understand is Ithaca is poor. The reason the palace looks like a ruin and the armor is ratty is that they can't afford better.
Exactly. Like they especially with the way Nolan presents Ithaca and all these areas is that it's kind of collapsing. Society's about to collapse. That's Nolan's setting. It's a Greece that's about to collapse in part due to the hubris of the Greeks, you know, especially Agamemnon. I can never say his name. Agamemnon. Yeah, there we go. I got a freaking dictation on how to freaking say that name. All right, let's just keep going. You're right.
Odysseus saying, no, let's just take the long way around, you know? So it's like, okay, so we start off with that, and they're going across the seas, and it's like, you might be able to just go along with it so far, but there are issues to even raise with some of the choices that he's making early on. But we get to the Cyclops scene. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
This was a big disappointment for me because you could tell he wanted to do this as little as possible.
He didn't really like the fantastical elements. Like he really kind of dialed it down on the fantastical element. But I mean, if that's the case, he really should have done the Odyssey because you can't really do the Odyssey without the fantastical elements.
Exactly, leaned into it, and that's what I said about him scaling back and trying to bring as much of the fantastical elements of science fiction and fantasy. You don't scale those back so much to where they don't hardly exist at all. If anything,
he constructed a 60-foot puppet to create the Cyclops correctly. I don't think the problem was he wanted to scale back that element of it necessarily. And I think you gotta remember this also. In the Odyssey poem itself, the fantastical elements are actually not as frequent as you might think. The gods are, but the actual voyage that Odysseus goes on doesn't take as much of the Odyssey as you think it does. A lot of them are really shown in the second half of the poem, more so than the first. Wait, what was that? He did what? Okay, so a big thing with the Odyssey is that it does scale down the magic quite a bit, and that sucks. I don't like that part. I like it when there's more fantastical stuff. Polyphemus, the whole scene with him does scale back the interaction angle, the discussion, the conversation. The big issue I have is that the whimsy is drawn out, the magic is drawn out, but the Cyclops is still there. There is still a lot of the magical fantasy elements. It's not like they remove the fantasy, it's that they ground the fantasy. That's the big difference. Unfortunately, though, Nolan doesn't actually do anything that doesn't illustrate that they could have done the Cyclops, you know, because there's no reason why he can't. He just doesn't have him speak. But like, there's tons of magic in the movie. Like again, the whole sequence with the dead coming back with Circe. So again, but the Cyclops scene I have issues with because that's one of the key elements of the poem that are adapted effectively in the film.
You need to lean into them even more because that's what we enjoy out of these kinds of stories, even ones that are mythologically based.
But I don't think they're going to complain about the same thing I'm going to complain about because I complain that scene is a great depiction, a great encapsulation of Odysseus's character. It completely captures who Odysseus is in the sequence. They're complaining it's not fantastical enough. That's not the problem. The problem is it's not human enough. It's just a fight, you know? It's basically a survival battle. It demonstrates Odysseus' cunning and cleverness and the care to keep his men alive. So it's recontextualized to focus on Odysseus trying to keep as many of his men alive as possible, when it should be about his pride and cunning.
And with Agamemnon, with his armor. Now, when the trailer came out, I was like, "Oh, this is crazy. What the hell kind of armor is this?" But when I went to go see the movie, I kind of like what they're trying to do with Agamemnon. They're trying to portray him as this above it all dark lord. You can't see his face because he is the king of the Greeks. That's kind of what happened. He's an overlord of the Greeks, and that they kind of portrayed him as this untouchable high lord. Because one of the things that they had in the movie was that Odysseus didn't want to go to war, but he couldn't refuse Agamemnon. That's also something they kind of touched on in Troy because they all served Agamemnon, and so. They made Agamemnon like this faceless, dark.
They kind of touched upon it in Troy. So Lit Devil's reference for this is the movie Troy, not the mythology of the ancient Greeks. Just saying.
Was like a Darth Vader-esque figure in terms of like trying to pull off this mystique that he had. That's what they try to play him off as. And then it's so like when they open the gates of Troy, he's just standing there. Right? He's just standing there while his men rush in. He's like this dark lord invading and conquering. And so this is kind of it kind of gives you the essence, the hint as to why no one defied him, because he seems like a walking god himself in this movie, and the armor really sells that.
See, I think they could have sold it with more historically accurate armor. Some of that armor looks friggin' peak, especially like Spartan-esque kind of, armor with the tight look of it. To me, again, because of the historical side, this is just like comical Batman grade, and they could have pulled off what they wanted.
It's like a Batman mask.
it's just Batman fantasy garbage. But let's talk about this Cyclops scene, because outside,
I love how he just dismisses this entire thing. I mean, listen, I think Lit Devil's a clown. I think he's a joke. I've had back and forths with him before in the past. He's not wrong right here, but Chad just blew him off. Like, just said, "Oh, fuck what you're saying. It's Batman grade." It's like you're saying, "Oh yeah, it looked goofy, but it had like some cool aura in certain scenes," and like he kind of was going off a little bit positive. Then Chad's like, straighten the tide going, straighten the ship going. No, it's garbage. It's shit. Like, oh, okay, that's sad.
Like, if you don't know the context of the original story, it makes it even worse, because the Cyclops comes in, just eats a guy because they're there, and so it's like, okay, the Cyclops is a cannibalistic monster that's just going to eat people, but then it acts like it doesn't see any of the other guys, and it's like, these are legit potential threats, you're just going to ignore them. Now in the actual, it just goes to sleep within it. In the actual story, like I've started to watch the 1997 TV miniseries of the Odyssey.
Oh god, the Hallmark one, the one I was just talking about before. God, it all comes back to Hallmark.
Good. It's actually, so I'm enjoying it way more than the Odyssey, and it's more accurate as well. And
I mean, listen, it's more accurate. Enjoy it more. Oh, that's okay. Sure. By the way, you want to know what the Cyclops looks like in the that series, in that miniseries? Let me show you. This is what the Cyclops looks like in that series. And listen, it's not bad. It's not bad, but I think it's important to take this in context. This is what they're saying looks better than the Odyssey. This is what Chad's saying is better. Listen, I want to point this out right now. There is no accounting for taste. This is what Shad is saying is better than Nolan's work.
Lost. And eating my food. And why not?
No. It's true. We just helped ourselves. As your guests, we know. We bring gifts. That is the custom in this part of the world, no?
Like, it's fine. It's a TV budget movie. It's more like Xena in terms of like production value. But I don't know. It's not intimidating. And again, the Cyclops should be a little fun, but it's a guy with an animatronic mask. It's not particularly scary. Whereas Nolan's Cyclops is deeply unsettling. Like, he has a goofy sounding, oh, doop kind of voice. But it's fun. It's fine. It's family friendly, this version of the Cyclops. And that's fine. But Nolan's film creates a truly terrifying monster. The reason why the Cyclops doesn't talk in Nolan's version isn't because he's trying to, remove the fantasy. It's because Nolan's Cyclops is Lovecraftian. He only takes a few bodies and eats them and does nothing else because he doesn't perceive them as threats. He doesn't talk to them because it's like talking to an ant or like a rat in the house. He's keeping them there as a snack and nothing else. Like, that's the thing. He's treating them like they're nothing because it dehumanizes them and treats them as small. Every encounter in the Odyssey that Nolan produced makes the people feel small and valueless, like they are nothing. It's more Lovecraftian than it is Greek epic.
And the original Cyclops can talk, right? And actually explains some of the logic, whereas like, I'm just going to keep you here and eat you at my leisure because you can't really hurt me and is arrogant and stuff like that. They don't explain that context. It's just like
worse.
a monster.
I think it's worse if he could talk. Right? He's more evil. Like, it's worse in terms of like, he seems more evil and cruel if he can talk, as opposed to him not being able to talk, which makes him like a mindless monster. So he doesn't seem he's dangerous, but he kind of seems like an oaf or just kind of like,
just
the guy knows how to make cheese. That tells you he's intelligent. If you can make cheese, you understand. You're a little bit more intelligent. He's not shown as evil. He's shown as indifferent. Like, that's what's so disturbing about the Cyclops in Nolan's film. The Cyclops is this indifferent sort of creature who just doesn't care. It's not evil if you're eating a snack. Because that's what they are. They're snacks. They're not people to the Cyclops. It's not cannibalistic because he's not eating other cannibals. He's eating livestock. He keeps the people there to eat because they're like sheep. In fact, the sheep are more valuable than the people. The Cyclops likes his sheep and cheese more than the human beings. Honestly, I'm kind of digging. I'm kind of sung myself on Nolan's Cyclops more the more I talk about it. It's not the epic. It's less of the intellectual discussion that I think is so good in other adaptations, and of course the original. But it is an effective moment. It's not mindless. He just doesn't give a shit about Odysseus, and that's it.
Just this, mentally disabled freak kind of just living out whoop whoop. And so
mentally disabled, the guy can make cheese. He makes cheese. That's not a stupid. You have to be intelligent to make cheese. And even then, the soldiers realize the Cyclops can speak much later on because he prays to Poseidon. But it's only after they've already pushed things too far that they try that. They attack first and don't try to understand afterwards. And that same thing is what leads them into trouble with Xerxes. They act first and don't think. So it's not that he's mindless. It's that the soldier's first instinct is to attack and kill. That's it right there.
So I'm sitting there wondering, why are you acting like you can't even see the humans? And there's no, because it doesn't talk, it doesn't explain his logic at all. It just looks like he's a complete moron letting the humans live there. Any apparent, thing.
And it looks like he just goes to sleep.
Yeah,
right? He comes in, eats a guy, and then just goes off for a nap. The only way I could think to maybe explain that is he considers them such lesser beings that he considers them cattle, basically, and not even worth engaging with. But that, again, taking the whole conversation with the creature out of the context of this story, it changes so much of the lore. It just kind of becomes like a random D&D monster encounter of sorts.
Yeah, that plays out completely retarded. They don't really utilize the sheepskins that much, and they don't explain how the Cyclops is getting fooled by it, because at one point I think the Cyclops' eye is still working fine, and they're trying to hide his sheep and anything like that. That was retarded. The trying to escape with the door lowering and closing was nonsense, because there was moments where it's like they could survive. They don't properly show that there were still men trapped behind, which is why Odysseus goes back. That was retarded.
They also don't show the reason the Cyclops went to sleep is because in the story, Odysseus got him drunk. In this one, the Cyclops is like, all right, random creatures that could harm me, I'm going to ignore them, go to sleep, because it's particularly retarded. It's mentally disabled, this version.
Okay, so the entire argument is because it's different, it sucks. Am I correct with that one? Is that your whole argument? And the only way you can explain it is by dropping the big gamer word to describe it? Again, this is what makes Shad such a terrible fucking critic. He can only throw up his hands and so, oh, it's so bad, it's so stupid, this, that, and the other. But he can't actually explain what's different about it. Now, I think it's different because it doesn't demonstrate Odysseus's character effectively. That's my criticism of the scene. I get what Nolan was trying to do, and I respect what he's trying to do. But I don't think it's effective as a critical scene because it doesn't demonstrate Odysseus's pride, cunning, trickery, or deceptive qualities nearly enough, or ability of misdirection. The problem is that the Cyclops is intelligent. He can talk, he can communicate. He just chooses not to because he didn't seem to care about Odysseus all that much.
If at its kindest interpretation, it's like, okay, did the Cyclops know that they would not kill him since he's the only one that can open the door? It's like, that's the kindest interpretation. It's like, okay, well, can't open the door, so they're not going to kill me.
But has a pretty vulnerable eye.
It is stab his eye, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the sheep thing, like I said, is retarded. Now, the original, right? Odysseus does a word game with where he does clever things. Gets it drunk first, okay, to get it to fall asleep. They injure the eye, which makes it needs to call for help. But Odysseus doesn't reveal his actual name. He says his name is Nobody. And so when the Cyclops goes to call for help, he says, nobody blinded me, and his brothers don't understand what's going on. And he doesn't know Odysseus' real name to try and get his father's vengeance upon him, which is Poseidon, okay? And so there's actually a perfectly good vein of logic in the original tale. And then when Odysseus escapes, in arrogance, Odysseus thinks he is safe on his boat, and then calls back to the Cyclops and taunts him and tells him his real name. That's the moment of taunting, I'm victorious, and then that stuffs him up because the Cyclops is the child of Poseidon, and the Cyclops is able to use the real name of Odysseus to curse him, and then Poseidon basically curses him upon the seas, and it's going to take ages to get back. This is
the smaller strokes that I was telling you about, Chad, because by taking this out of the story, it takes out one of the big reasons why they didn't get back as quickly, as much sooner than they did.
Okay. So, here's a problem here. In the film, the Cyclops, after being blinded, prays to his father Poseidon, and that is believed to be why they're stuck on the oceans. So yes, you are correct in some broad strokes that they do change the myth entirely. That I do have an issue with. I have an issue with how they change it. That's one thing I'm critical of too. However, the big difference here is that they still keep the tethering quality that connects everything together. The Cyclops does not need to know Odysseus' name to condemn the voyage that they take. And then, indeed, right after leaving, their boats are bombarded with storms. So, there you go. There's some super chats play real quick.
At Olivia_Williams_purple_fairy super chatted $4.95. On a small side note, Odyssey, it's a prequel to Dune. The Atreidae are descendants of Agamemnon.
Really? That's actually an interesting touch. I don't know if I remember that part from the...
At Maryland614 super chatted $1.98. Boy, I wish Nolan used AI, Shad.
Yeah.
At MatSherlock9636 super chatted $5. I hope the kid makes a good king and Ithaca is okay after Odysseus leaves. Something I wish they kept, the fact Odysseus's dad was still alive.
Yeah, that's one element I wish they included too, because there is some family history.
At Connor Gilpin6483 super chatted $5. Quick correction. The boar tusk helmet was in fashion during the late Bronze Age.
There you go.
It was anachronistic to the Archaic period when Homer likely lived.
There you go. Okay, that makes more sense.
At Eustace Giwo super chatted $5. BTW note how these history buffs want armor wrong for the period because it looks cooler than period accurate armor.
Oh yeah. Well, period accurate rarely is cool.
At MatSherlock9636 super chatted $5. The story of the Odyssey has a lot more palace intriguing than one might expect.
Mm-hmm.
Half of it is in Ithaca. A Game of Thrones style Odyssey could be fun.
Agreed. I think elements of that are what go into the Nolan film so much.
At Olivia_Williams_purple_fairy super chatted $4.95. The Cyclop also speak, just not to them. That's how they realize he's a son of Poseidon.
Yeah, exactly. He says it directly in the movie. It's not a secret.
At MatSherlock9636 super chatted $5. I don't know if the Cyclops is actually a demigod or if they just assume that he is because he prayed and is gigantic. I wanted more giants, they cool.
Agreed. He is definitely a demigod, though. He's part god. Actually,
at Olivia_Williams_purple_fairy super chatted $4.95. It's revealed in Dune Messiah as Agamemnon asks for an audience to Alia in her ancestor memories.
Oh, I don't remember that part. Oh, no, you might be right about that. Oh, crud. I gotta revisit Dune Messiah before the new movie comes out then, because I forgot that detail. Oh, man, Dune's great. I love Dune. Damn, I forgot that detail. Okay. Well, that ties in with all the elements of the Greek imagery, especially with the bull riding and the cow imagery with the Atreides. Anyway, back to this.
Because Poseidon was obscuring his path.
Yep.
Cause and effect. And you've taken away a big part of the narrative that really means something that should have
Except it's in the movie still.
stayed in there because you wanted to be grounded. Because you
Except it's still in the movie, though.
didn't want to play around with myths and monsters.
Odysseus,
Except it's still in the movie, though.
such a retard now. Instead of taunting him on the boat where we're in a place of safety, as they're leaving the cave, Odysseus decides to turn back and shoot him in the eye, provoking the Cyclops to chase them and kill more of his men.
And then they have to run away.
I just couldn't believe it.
They're like, what the hell, Odysseus? What are you doing? You're home free.
Exactly.
Anger. He plays on his rage by spitting out the armor. All that being said, though, I'm not sure if the Cyclops intentionally pissed Odysseus off by doing that. He might have just spit it out because he was just like spitting out like a corn kernel or whatever, you know? Or like, but still.
Hey, what are you doing, you astronomical moron?
Also, the way that Odysseus is portrayed here bothered me even in the movie because like 80% of the time he's kind of this miserable, guilt-ridden Odysseus.
Yes.
And then every once in a while he has to be Odysseus from the actual poem, the actual story, and it just makes no sense. Like, why is this guilt-ridden Odysseus? Like, oh, strap me to the post so I can listen to sirens. Let me go ahead and just fight Polyphemus. We're just going to shoot him or something. Like, every single time he kind of has to act like the Odysseus from the Odyssey, it feels out of character. Even in a theater, sitting in a theater, I was like, this is kind of, it's strange that he does these things because that's not his character anymore.
It's completely inconsistent, and he's a boring, mopey character with no gravitas or heroism or exemplary kind of strength at all. He's just like just a guy, a random mopey.
Well, hang on a second there, Shad. Odysseus isn't a particularly heroic character. He is a trickster character. He's a trickster archetype. He is deceptive by nature. He's not necessarily a hero like you would have, like, say, Achilles or Heracles or what have you, or Perseus. He's more of a trickster. He's a liar. He's a deceiver. He's a pirate. He's a thief. So I think this version of Odysseus is actually more heroic in terms of his characterization than he is in the epic in many ways. But I digress.
He doesn't even feel like he is much of a military leader, which, look, I've got family that's been in the military. The idea that the superiors above you do not care about what happens to you, especially the most immediate supervisors that you would have right over you, that's just blatantly false. There is a brotherhood aspect to this that really didn't get shown in the movie that I saw. It just seemed
like... What? What are you fucking talking about? Okay, this is I'm getting a little confused here. So, in the movie, there's multiple occasions where Odysseus puts his own life at risk to save his men. He is deeply, deeply cares about the lives of his men, to the point where he puts himself at risk with angering the gods. He tries to defy the gods to make sure his men survive. Unfortunately, he also makes sacrifices that put others at risk in his place. And one thing is that, there's one comment where it's like, why do you defend the lives of your men, of these men, when so many more you've allowed to die in your name? And that's really clever, because it does illustrate that even though he is fiercely defending the lives of his men, he's also sent countless others to their grave. And don't forget, in the Iliad and the Odyssey and the Oresteia and all those other works, it is reoccurring, it is consistent that Agamemnon doesn't give a shit about his people. Oh, yeah, that's what media is. So you in chat. That's really cool. Hey, what's going on? I always think I miss cool people in chat always, who we know. Because I'm always, like, distracted by something. Sorry about that. Back to this. Let's let some super chats play real quick. A few just came that look interesting.
At Matcherlock9636 super chatted $2. I want more anti-monarchy fantasy stories, no kings.
Yeah. Agreed. Same.
At Wyatt Ahmedin 5,747 super chatted $20.
Thank you so much.
Love the movie but having a hard time with the reading that it's as a conservative story with Odysseus feeling guilt over tossing tradition. I get that, but I see it as more universal, guilt over betraying trust and kindness.
Well, that's also fair too. I think it's interesting to discuss this point. It's an interesting point of discussion. Conservative does not necessarily only mean American conservative as we know it right now, like right-wing politics, whatever. It also means a return to anchoring yourself in tradition. Nolan is fascinated by historical precedents. I think he sees history as any narrative that talks about the fall of civilization that starts with morals collapsing. It's a very conservative narrative. That being said, though, that doesn't mean it's evil. It's not. It just means that it means it falls back on the conservative idea that if we keep things the way they are, it'll be okay. And it focuses on that angle of it. It's not the same thing as to say that it is conservative like modern right-wing politics are conservative. It's more that it is anchored in tradition. That's a very general read of it. I also think it's conservative in that it's very like patriarchal, very male-centered, which is fine. That's expected with an Odyssey story. It's a very patriarchal era the story was written in. It also removes a lot of the roles women did have, especially Athena, who is a very active character in the narrative originally. So that's a factor as well. I think it's all fair and all good to discuss, though. I think it's all fair to focus on, but it's conservative in this general sort of way. It's not American conservative. That's the key thing, because American conservative is more extreme right wing, more regressive rather than staying the course. And that's very important to keep note of, because when we hear the word conservative in discussion, we often knee-jerk and think about the political landscape, which is not what real conservative belief is. That's conservative politics. Conservative philosophy is a little different. It aligns with that, but it's not the same thing. That's not to say it's a defense of this politically, but it is an example of a conservative narrative that is still universally relatable. A lot of films are conservative, but they're just not politically aligned with the alt-right, which is a very different concept to make.
Like, a lot of his crew was just there to be red shirts.
Yeah,
and he was not bothered all that much by the times that they were, taken out.
Yeah, and so many of his men end up.
What the fuck are you talking about? There's the whole scene with Cersei. There's the whole negotiating with the dead where he tries to figure out, well, if we go this way, all my men die. If I go this way, only 6 might die. There's a whole angle there. He tries to make sure his men don't die at the hands of the sirens. They don't eat the sacred calves, from Apollo. That's all relevant. So I'm not sure what you're talking about, buddy.
Dying because of his own stupidity. And the Cyclops is a perfect example where people say, oh, his men die because of his actions in the original. Yeah, but a lot of it is like actually tied into his character, and his character is arrogant, and it makes sense. Where this is just a retard. And why would anyone follow him if he's just so incompetent and stupid? And so that whole Cyclops scene would just like
well, his men mutiny shortly after that, so that's kind of why.
Absolute garbage crap. Oh, and so I can't remember exactly what the next island was, but it might be the giant island. And that was just farcical, comical nonsense. They get to an island and there's like a kid there, kind of wearing armor, kind of not. They say hi to him. Oh, sorry, this was before we are Greeks from Ithaca, said by a guy who's clearly not Greek, right? On one of the islands.
Here's a laughably diverse crew.
Oh,
there's like some Indians, there's an Asian guy in there.
Indian, and it's just like,
Greek from Bali.
We're Greeks from Ithaca. It's just like, stop trying to gaslight
me.
Greek. It's like, constantly tries.
None of the actors are fucking Greek. Get the fuck over it, man. Hell, they're more Greek than you are. They're closer to Greece than you are in Australia, buddy, but I digress.
To tell you something, and what they show is contradicted blatantly on screen. And so, they get to the giant island. The giants apparently just sit there in like full plate armor, waiting for people to arrive to slaughter them. It undercut any type of epic tension, combat, fear for safety, for just how absurd it was. It became a clown scene where I'm just watching like, this is stupid. What is going on? This is absolutely retarded. But it's like...
What's bad about it? The problem with Shad is he can't actually... By the way, you know something he's ignored this entire time? We're about 25 minutes into his 54-minute video, and he's never once mentioned Telemachus, or Penelope, or or Rob Pattinson's suitor character, or the blind farm herd, or any of the elements outside of Odysseus's travels, which are just one piece of the film. What you can only do is look at Odysseus's story from a narrative flow. He can't look outside that, which is funny because the Odyssey itself exists outside that. One of the big weaknesses with the Hallmark movie, for example, is while it is accurate to the story, it focuses almost exclusively on the voyage itself. It doesn't focus as much on the court drama, which is most of the poem. And that's a huge problem, because if you ignore huge chunks of the story because you only want to focus on stuff you like because it's fantasy, then you're missing out on the full scope of what the Odyssey has to offer. That's one thing Nolan did very well. He had a better balance with the actual poetics of the epic, as opposed to just the adventure fun stuff.
And that's my favorite part was when they ran into those very thin.
Then again, Epic the musical does the same thing too, which I can fault that as well for that mistake, but not mistake, that choice.
Trees and acted like they were iron bars they couldn't get past or pull apart slightly.
Right? Oh my gosh. And so
have you ever pulled trees? Have you ever tried to break a tree trunk with your bare hands? Have you ever tried that? I can assure you it's not easy, even a thin tree. With your bare fists. Yeah. I'm going to pry this as people are stabbing you with spears. That's going to work. Yeah, good luck with that one.
There's the whole stuff with the suitors. They spend a lot of time at the kingdom. And I'm just looking at this fortress, and it's like over 2,000 to 3,000. It's got thousands of years of weathering, and it's an actual base almost in ruins. But hang on. In ancient Greece, it wasn't ancient Greece, it was the modern. This would be like a more freshly built fortress, but it's like just in shambles, ruinous from the outside. And it's like, yeah.
Well, because it shows the end of days. The Nolan's film is more about the end of this era of Greece. Things are crumbling and in disarray because the king has been gone for 20 years and things are crumbling. It reflects the setting. It's an artistic choice. You'd know that if you understood the film, but I digress.
So there's that. I don't think Odysseus and his queen had good chemistry, Anne Hathaway. And the whole setup with the suitors.
The feminism, like speaking of Anne Hathaway, the feminism in the film was another detriment to it.
Yes.
Now, I will admit this, I did overall kind of like the film. It's like, I give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. I would watch it again because when it got to be the Nolan film, it got to be the Odyssey, I enjoyed it for what it was. Did I like it because it's a good Odyssey movie? Not really. But I liked it because I went in it with the mentality, this is Nolan's version. I know what kind of guy he is. I bought the ticket. I know what I'm getting into. All right. I know the risks. I know he's pretentious.
Hang on. Didn't you say you watched half of it before? Chat, am I going crazy? Didn't Luchdale say he watched part of it? I think his story's changing here. I don't know. I feel like I'm missing. Either I misheard him or I don't feel like going back. We're too far in to do that. But I'm pretty sure he said early on that like he had got a ticket. He didn't actually watch. He saw a good part of the movie. He didn't watch the whole thing. So like, why does he act like he saw it in theaters when he pirated it? Clearly. Like, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. He was either lying earlier on or he's lying now. I don't know which one it is, but it's one of them that he lied about.
I know he wants a grounded version of it, and that's kind of what interested me. I want to see what his version, a grounded Odyssey, would look like. I was just curious. So I knew what I was getting into. So as looking at it as Nolan's Odyssey, and seeing it for what it was, what he's trying to do, I quite liked it. And the reason didn't love it, but I didn't leave the theater going, oh, that was so woke or anything. And the reason why, because I liked a few things added into it, like the token that he carries along with him, kind of representing his guilt. And speaking of the guilt, I know people don't like it that he's like, oh, he's a mourning, guilt-ridden Odysseus. And that's kind of where me looking at it as a Nolan film comes in. Okay, this is Nolan's Odysseus. And it kind of does make a little sense if you want to see like a hero in Odysseus. where he's like, I feel guilty about what happened, what I allowed to happen in Troy. The whole idea of, okay, I'm going to use this peace offering to trick him into surrender, or to trick us into Troy, and so we can, just sack it, open the gates and sack it. And then he sees the sacking of Troy, and he's like, whoa, I could see that happening as a possibility. Now, do I also like the Odysseus that's like, I don't care, I did awesome. Yes, I prefer that Odysseus. But I can see some where he was coming from with this kind of Odysseus, and him being kind of guilt-ridden and not wanting to go home because he's guilty about his past sins at Troy and everything, and then carrying around that token. Like as a signal for, like, this is a kind of a symbol of my misdeeds, what I failed to do, and things of that.
Well, no, the token is meant to represent his wife, Penelope. Like that's from his wife.
That nature, and trying to kind of like he returns it home so he can be redeemed of these past sins. That's kind of almost literally what they say.
So I get what you're saying there, right? And I think there might have been something there if it just, for me, wasn't utterly undercut by so many things. Like that whole narrative about, he has PTSD from a sack of Troy and regrets it and things like that. That really started to come off like a men bad narrative. And then
what?
Feminism stepped in.
I'm sorry, what? What the fuck are you talking about, man? How do you get a sense that war is bad and say men are bad? No, it's a matter of war. It's a matter of that society has allowed a situation like this to occur. It's not men are bad. It's that they had broken the terms of honor. It's not men. It's just them. It's not all men. It's them. Because they broke the trust. They broke the law of cordial, of guests, of allowing guests to enter. Has nothing to do with men specifically. It's them, that group. Only a goddamn moron would think that it means all men are bad when a group of specific men, specifically Odysseus, who is the architect of everything, breaks the rules that drastically. Especially when other men are not bad. Like, what are we doing here?
When the women stepped in, it was like, I was sitting on this throne for 20 years and you get to have it because the whiskers on your chin. I'm like, shut up.
Yep.
Shut up. And if you're sitting on it, why is it?
When the woman, you mean Penelope? That's literally what happens in the poem too. Like, yeah, she was there for 20 years and she wants her. But the thing also is with Penelope is the only thing she wants is Odysseus. So she's doing all this for a man. A feminist writer would not write Penelope that same way. And the point of that scene is to illustrate I keep saying Telemachus is that though he is of age, he has no fucking experience being a king. He is not prepared. He does not know what he's getting into. That is the matter of it all. So you're complete morons, all of you. You're idiots. If that's your interpretation of all those scenes.
Why is the kingdom like shit then?
Yeah, and also the message was basically, if men are going to be left unto their own devices, they will lead to the end of civilization. And if you do not treat strangers, immigrants well, that will also lead to the end of civilization.
Yeah,
right?
I kind of got the hint.
The fuck kind of interpretation of the story is that? It's just anyone. It's like, let guests, and it's do unto others what you would have done unto you. That's it. It is literally, you are arguing that a policy anchored in the teachings of Christ, because that's not really a law in the Greek era. They treat hospitality and guests correctly. That's a big thing. Guests, you got to treat respectfully in Greek culture. However, the way they phrase Zeus's law is a combination of the Greek mythology as well as Judeo-Christian do unto others kind of beliefs. That's how it's phrased and presented. Shad has basically said that the concept of doing unto others as the golden rule means you should allow immigrants in. Apparently, the basic concept of human empathy is woke. And a subversive pro-immigrant message. Which, by the way, they never mention immigrants. There's no immigration in this film. So I don't know where he gets that topic from. It's basic do unto others. That's it. Jesus was a leftist. Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, Jesus was very, very, very socialist. Which is great. Jesus Christ, you're a moron.
And I kind of got that when I was watching the movie, but I was like, is this just me being hypersensitive?
No,
because
yes,
they dropped that line saying like, okay,
extremely sensitive.
The whole thing is we need to be nice to strangers. No.
Like if you're actually paying attention, sometimes those strangers might burn down your city. Oh, but
look what happens when you were nice to strangers.
Yeah, what are the strangers going to do when they realize you're going to be nice to them? They can trick their way into your walls. I mean,
that's why the movie crumbles apart. It's because people have abandoned civility in favor of savagery. It's not men left to their own devices. It's the collapse of civilized behavior, where order and rules matter. That's what it. How could you be so stupid, so dumb, so incredibly moronic in your interpretation of this? All of you are idiots. Either idiots or oversensitive man-children. There's no middle ground. There's no middle ground. Because the concept of hospitality cannot be seen as a threat to your worldview. Basic hospitality is apparently too woke for you. Did you ever stop and consider, reflect on what that implies about your worldview? Do you ever stop and go, wow, it's strange that the concept of people just being kind to one another threatens my sense of safety in the world? Jesus Christ, what a bunch of losers.
Drink your wine and eat your food for 20 years.
But that's why
what happens when they let the strangers in, the suitors, a whole palace full of suitors.
Right, and so that underlining kind of ideology is actually baked on a fundamental level into this film. Christopher Nolan has actually admitted this, right? So he said that the Odyssey is ultimately about the idea that society can only function through respect for strangers. That's his ideology on full display right there. And what he means, like strangers, he means immigrants. Okay, this is actually forcing modernity.
You're such a dumbass. It's a concept from ancient antiquity, you morons. In the very first sequence of the Odyssey, the very first scene, Athena arrives in Ithaca and meets with Telemachus. That is the first, aside from the scene where the gods meet and discuss, the fate of Odysseus, Athena visits Ithaca and talks with Telemachus and is greeted as a guest. That is how the poem begins, along with message about Ethiopia, also mentioned early on. You all just proved you're LARPers. You didn't read the fucking poem. The poem starts with Athena being greeted at the door, well, abstractly, by Telemachus. How do you miss that point? The idea of treating the strangers with respect is core to Greek folklore. Yeah, I mean, it is. I am saying it's anchored in Judeo-Christian belief as well, at least Nolan's interpretation of it. But it is still heavily anchored in Greek folklore as well. There are so many myths where people did not treat strangers with respect in Greek folklore, and it turns out to be gods in disguise. The one about the spinning of the webs, the weaving one, with the ladies turned into a spider. That's an example right there, So this is really stupid. You're projecting massive amounts into Nolan's statements because all you can do is project your own insecurities onto this project. That is sad.
Into a classical tale for an ideological purpose. And that's the entire film is all about forcing modernity into it, right? Where they wanted to restructure the perspective of the servants to be slaves. And then, there's these girl bossy moments with the queens and the female characters and things. And then the men are depicted, like if men in their true natures were revealed, they're just pigs. Like she didn't turn them into pigs. She turned them into their true nature. And they became.
That's what Xerxes said, but then Odysseus argues otherwise. So the movie shows Xerxes say one thing and Odysseus says another. He argues for them and Xerxes relents and lets them turn back. So that being said, though, I think Xerxes is correct that her assessment of these men being savages is fair. But it's not all men, it's these men, because these men would do what they wanted. It's not what Chad hears is male characters being criticized and assumes it's all men. But Christopher Nolan's a man. Like, what are you fucking talking about, dude? And Odysseus proves that's not the case, because Odysseus is clever in that sequence and behaves diplomatically with Circe. So, like, your own logic falls apart if you talk about the events of the film itself.
Who they really were.
When you turn them back, she goes, back to your disguises.
Back to your disguises. Like, what a piece of crap ideological, like, message right there.
That's what fucking happens in the poem, you dumbass.
Men, like, being civilized, they're just acting in disguise. In their true selves, they're just pigs that are going to rape, pillage, and destroy civilization, right? And that is also, like, bookended and re-established in the film when the horrible sea people that have been destroying, raping, and pillaging were Odysseus and his men all along. We were the sea people, he says, right? And so this is actually not, being overly sensitive and trying to see wokeness where it's not. No, this is actually very core to this film. And it's done subtly in more clever ways, which is why not as many people are noticing it, but it's actually a fundamental aspect to this film. This film is laced on a fundamental level with subversive modernism and ideology from a left-wing lens. Okay? That's...
You sound fucking delusional, dude. You sound crazy. You sound nuts. The idea of it is that when you break from tradition, society collapses. That is the most conservative possible message you can possibly find. And unlike you, who has to reach into the bags of delusion to find your answers, all I have to do is describe what they literally say in the film. And that's all I need to hear. That's enough. Also, I don't want to burst your bubble or anything. Circe's an antagonist. I know I was saying before Circe did nothing wrong, because Circe did nothing wrong. She was defending her own home. Hey, listen, Shad, from your perspective, do you think a homeowner should not stand their ground and defend themselves from a group of strangers from another place invading your home? It sounds like you're saying we shouldn't defend one's home like Circe does. So, you heard it here, folks. Shad is against stand your ground laws because he does not believe Circe had the right to defend her house from the amassing strangers coming home. Oh man, you guys are delusional. I will admit, I think we're gonna only watch this one video because I think it's not enough time for a second one. We're barely halfway through this one, and Shad looks unhinged. Jesus, this is a point to pause on. Shad, you look crazy in this shot. Jesus Christ. Okay, let's some super chats play.
At Wing of Shoe super chatted $5. This live stream is like the movie, Ant and Chat suffering at several Grift Island trials videos, with our IQ slowly lowering video by video.
Yeah, tragically, you're not wrong about that.
At Matcherlock9636 super chatted $2. An Amazon fought in the Trojan War want her tail.
Yeah, no, I would like to see more Amazons in these stories. Unfortunately, it was adapt them out.
At user_225_CCC super chatted $1.99. WB Para merger is much dead in the water, right?
Yep. Oh, it's fucked. They're gonna lose a lot of money if they keep this going.
At Thinavo3893 super chatted $2. PTSD famously feminist agenda.
Yeah, no. Shell shock in World War I was famously the women coming up with that concept.
At Matcherlock9636 super chatted $5. I wonder which adaptation introduced the suitors going for the axes to use as weapons. It is a logical thing for them to try and makes it less unfair.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that feels like an easy thing for them to go
Olivia
for.
_Williams_purple_fairy super chatted $1.98. Welcome the stranger, Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. That's like a Jesus thing right there.
At Black Rabbit Studios 11 super chatted $1.99. These guys have no idea how weird they are.
No, they think they're normal, which is crazy, in my opinion. It's nuts.
At Olivia_Williams_purple_fairy super chatted $4.95. Leviticus chapter 19 verse 34 and Matthew chapter 25 verse 35. Those people are antichrist.
Yeah. Well, Leviticus less so, but the Gospels certainly, they talk about the constantly.
At Wyatt Amedon 5,747 super chatted $5.
Really more relevant in
Jesus Christ, these guys are projecting harder than an IMAX theater.
Yeah, maybe Nolan should have his films be filmed through them next time. Or shown through them.
At Otto Johnny super chatted $5. Even if you jump to Grand Canyon, you still couldn't make a bigger leap than what Shad just said?
Yeah, I really have a hard time wrapping my brain around it.
At Alex Donovancole super chatted $4.99.
Thanks for your super chat.
At Super Greggy Pants 6875 super chatted $4.99. We literally saw that Sirs turned a different man into a deer.
And a lion and
Not
a tiger.
all men
and a bear.
are pigs, according to her.
Yeah, all kinds of animals. They're all game on her island. More on her area.
At Matt Sherlock 9636 super chatted $5. In the poem, he sacks a city on the way back for no reason and was not punished. They raid a village in the beginning of the trip in the movie.
Exactly. Well, it's wild how they do that, and it's like they show all this, and you're like, well, again, it is a sign of the Greeks collapsing. And what's interesting, too, is that the Sea People were a real group historically. That's a real thing from history that's described both by the Greeks and by the Egyptians, which is wild. And a lot of other people mention it too. And they were believed to be dislocated pirates and raiders, essentially, like an army of mercenaries and raiders that rampaged the Mediterranean. And that was a real thing. That was a real point in history where that happened. It's crazy. It's interesting they adapted into the film like this in such a unique and interesting way to kind of take this film in context of the collapse of civilization as they knew it at the time. It's really quite brilliant, I think, in that sense.
That's Christopher Nolan right there. It is ultimately anti-men, anti-male in its final message and payoff and underlining themes throughout the entire thing. Okay, listen to what it's saying about civilization and all those things. Men's natural tendency to be violent and stuff.
No, it's not men's natural tendency. It's these men, because Xerxes focuses on them choosing to go to war, as opposed to the reality of the film where we see people choosing to be selfless, like Sinan, for example. The great problem there is not that Sinan was violent. Sinan was kind of forced to take someone else's spot to go to war. And we saw not that men are inherently bad, but that specific men are. The men who fought, especially. And how the worse they are, the harder it was for them to get back home. We see that with Menelaus, it's interesting because there's clearly abuse going on between Menelaus and Helen, but we also get Telemachus's character arc, and we get John Leguizamo's character. It's more that if you give a man a sword, the potential for destruction rises. But we also see women do terrible things, like Mia Goth's character. Like there's women who are terrible too. Honestly, even Calypso is softened in this version, but it also has all the elements of Calypso taken out too. So there you go. The problem is with this film is that the women's role is often diminished. They have less of an active role. They're more reactive and supportive of men in the narrative. If you look at the structure of the story, there's no justifiable reason to take away all of Athena's action from the epic in this film, unless your goal is to de-emphasize the role women played in the narrative. That's what it comes down to.
And also the whole thing about Zeus's law, and it's all that Zeus's law thing is constantly contradicted about we deserve this because we broke Zeus's law. When hang on, no, but they broke Zeus's law first, okay? But
plotting against him.
Ignore that, right? Ignore all that, and just
hang on. Are you talking about Odysseus breaking Zeus's law, or Telemachus potentially breaking Zeus's law? Because with Telemachus, it's more how he would be perceived by society. He'd be exiled. However, Odysseus accepts exile to pay tribute to the men who died. So the whole movie ends with Odysseus paying tribute to all the men who died. How can the movie be anti-male if Odysseus's final resolution is to pay tribute to everyone who died along the way, to honor the men who died. How can it be anti-male if the focus of the narrative ultimately is Odysseus paying tribute to those who died? How's it anti-male? Explain that one, Shad. Because I think you got caught up in the words of the antagonists who illustrate that society is collapsing, that men choose to do wrong in the face of this whole thing.
Just go along with the flow, I guess. Because
the Bronze Age collapse. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The collapse of the Bronze Age, essentially.
Whole turning into pig scene. There were so many stupid things throughout that whole process, and then you have the underlining narrative laced in it as well. Ruined that engagement for me.
It's from the fucking poem. What the fuck are you talking about? Do you think Nolan invented the concept of Circe turning men into pigs? Do you think it's a new concept? It's from the play. From the poem. I keep saying play. It's from the original text. It's in there, buddy. Like, what are you talking about? You just said you like the Odyssey. How can you hate the best presentation of that sequence that you can imagine? What?
There were some parts that were very, very well done. Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, why did they spare Circe? Because I know, okay, well, she's just a trauma victim or something like that.
They turned her into a trauma victim that had been, raped by bad men in the past, which justified her preemptively, essentially murdering people.
I think Shad hates the concept of women standing their ground. I think he hates stand your ground laws. That's what I think it is. He hates that concept. He hates the idea of someone defending their home from strangers who break into your house. Shad, you cannot simultaneously say that you cannot be right to wrong. You can't have to be justifiable to guests, but also get mad at someone who does not trust guests. Circe exists as an extension of the breaking of civility that we see with Odysseus' actions. Because people like Odysseus break trust, people can't trust strangers. So Circe is an effect of what people like Odysseus do. They break rules and tradition and are a threat to people who are strangers, and thus they have to break the rules back. That's what it is. It's the cascading role of how breaking trust eliminates trust in each other. We can't trust one another, and therefore we have to be on guard all the time. That's what that represents. And it's not subtle, it's the text of this movie.
He was feeding those soldiers meat from people that she had turned into animals previously, yes. Right? She was like a cannibal and feeding human flesh to other people.
And she's going to keep doing it. So, I think it's way better than he's killed her. She's a bad guy. The bad guy. But it's like, okay, we're going to spare her. I mean, I'm sorry to bother you. Sorry we hurt you. That's kind of cringe. So that's kind of, this movie could have totally been like a 9 or 10 out of 10 in some respects, had it not been for this stuff. Like the feminism was really annoying when it popped.
Literature Devil, let me bring around this. So your big complaint is that more women weren't murdered in the movie? Buddy, Odysseus let Circe live because of empathy, because he's trying to exercise empathy towards someone, and because they found a diplomatic solution. She turned the men back. She gave them directions on what to do next. So Odysseus let her live. That's what happened.
Yeah, it just popped, and then it kind of culminated in Zendaya's face, her I'm disappointed in men face, and she just the one face that she has. I'm pretty sure that's why they hire her, so she can have that face and look disappointed at men.
And so there was something that might have, I was actually, I could have been engaged and drawn in with the father-son dynamic when he returns. That was there was something they could have done there, right? But it ends with the most dog crap final fight scene.
Hang on. We were skipping half the movie right now. What about the sacred calves? What about the trip to hell? What about the Scylla and the whirlpool? What about Calypso? You haven't mentioned Calypso yet. We went from hour 1 to hour 3 and missed hour 2. What?
Sequence I've ever seen. It's oh no, he's got a single bow. Let us all our aggressive brave men suddenly become, horribly scared, ducking for cover because Odysseus has a single bow. Anyway, 5 men.
What? That's not what happens either. They all jump him. There's the one guy going to the armory, smashing things down, tossing weapons down. The only guy who's hiding is Robert Pattinson's character because he's a bloody coward. That's his whole character. He's confident when in control, but when out of control, he runs and screams and hides. That's his character arc. That's not subtle. Everyone else is jumping him. He has like, at one point he has like 7 or 8 guys pounding him like all at once. It's not all jumping him at once. He's just, they're defenseless. He has a weapon. They're ducking for cover, trying to find a way to survive. They regroup, pummel Odysseus, stab him, shoot him with arrows. Has like 4 arrows sticking out of him at one point. Like, but he keeps fighting. Like, what are we doing here? Are we stupid? Like, what are we doing?
Could have rushed him out, it would have been over. And the way they tried to justify that fight scene, it was a clown show. He ends up literally spinning like a retard with the axes that he grabs out.
So weak. That looks so dumb too.
The whole end sequence was a comical farce. Oh my gosh.
I also watched.
It's also from the Odyssey that happens, like in the story. It's not choreographed that same way, but that happens. He still kills the suitors all at once. That is what happens. Also, yeah, Shad is a writer. He only knows one word that starts with the letter R and ends with, well, you know the other letters. Jesus Christ, what a dumbass. Like, this is from the poem. It happens in the poem. It's there. Like, Shad, did you read it? It's kind of required reading in school. Jesus Christ.
They return with Ralph Fiennes. Yeah. And at the ending battles, I think it's way better there because it's like he gets the bow, just starts shooting people. One shot, one kill, because that's like a really dangerous, deadly bow. And then when he runs out of arrows, they do rush him. And he's just like, this sword is mine now. Stab, 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 you're dead. Like, there's no beating Odysseus. He just like casually walks around and just kills people. And he's ruthlessly kills everyone. Like, no, please don't kill me. Dead.
Right. They could have.
Well, Odysseus doesn't kill everyone. He kills people who fight it back, is what he does. When they bowed their heads and surrendered, he doesn't kill them. And that's more realistic because Odysseus breaks their spirit before killing all of them. And yet, like, all they want is their power fantasy. In real life, you can take an arrow and still live. Like, it's not like one shot, unless you hit a certain area of the body that can like take you down if you like the heart or like the lungs. Even then, you can still get up. People can take multiple arrows and still live. You can be stabbed dozens of times and still live. So, like, that's not unrealistic. It's just a long, drawn-out fight. And we don't know how many people get up after one shot and keep fighting or not. It's very grueling. That being said, though, Nolan has never excelled at fight scenes. Nolan in fights have never been the best, but it seems all right.
Pulled off like a John Wick. Odysseus is just beyond badass, but the actual choreography, the way he's fighting, it's garbage. He's not competent, and they haven't shown him as being an unstoppable warrior throughout all other parts of the film. He's constantly getting his ass handed to him, basically.
It's not about being a better... Did you miss the beginning of the movie? Okay, so for those who don't remember the movie, it opens up with Telemachus training with his mentor, and John Leguizamo's like guy is there. And they talk about like how it's not about being the strongest, it's about being the cleverest in a fight. And sometimes you have to open yourself up to attack to take advantage of the opponent's weakness. It's not about being unstoppable. It's about sometimes taking a hit and learning how to roll with the punches to keep fighting. So like, that's not what it is. Like, and again, like movies like, I think this fight is more reminiscent of fights like Henry V. At the end of Henry V, the Kenneth Branagh one specifically, or even the Chimes at Midnight with Orson Welles. Well, that's a loud thunderstrike right there. You see, we might lose power. Hopefully I can finish the stream before then. You see this grueling fight where they're rolling in the mud, they're forcing their faces down. It's brutal and messy and gross and disgusting, and it's a fight. It's a carnage essentially, and that combat is very effective in that movie because it's shown to be grueling. Combat is grueling. Unfortunately, this movie, I think this movie does that kind of same sense of combat is grueling very effectively. I'm going to play some super chats in case we lose power, so you make sure you got your money's worth.
At Matt Sherlock 9636 super chatted $2. I want more Bronze Age collapse movies. Sounds rad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is rad. Bronze Age is awesome. Well,
at Matcherlock9636 super chatted $2. Bronze Age collapse equals Mad Max with swords and gods.
To an extent, it's also a destruction of language. Egypt did okay.
At Wyatt Madden 5747 super chatted $5. Man, Odysseus plucking the bow with the lyre string in the score before going John Wick sent actual shivers down my spine.
So badass. Such a great scene.
At Matcherlock9636 super chatted $2. It is more reasonable for to kill like 20 than 108.
Yeah, I think like only 20 guys, I think like 20 or 15 or 20 guys died. Because a lot of the time, Odysseus attacks them and then they get back up and keep fighting and then they get dropped eventually. Like, I think it's one of those ones where they suggest more violence than what actually, they suggest more death than what actually happens because the room's not that full. But it's very effective. And a lot of the guys just give up. They just surrender, which I think is very interesting. Odysseus doesn't kill everyone. He just breaks their spirits enough and then drops into Penelope's arms. But lives, so it all works out.
Throughout all the other bits of the film, so they don't establish him as being an unstoppable warrior, and then he gets there, and it's just absolute.
Shad, the problem is your perspective of what counts as an unstoppable warrior is really, really delusional and not grounded in reality. I'm pausing supers again. You need your warriors to be ultra badasses. I've read your book. I know you cannot handle having a main character who cannot lose. So. You want Mary Sue's, you want power fantasies. Odysseus is clever. He was never the strongest warrior in any of the stories. In the book, in the epic, he gets his ass kicked. He thinks he's better than the gods, and his arrogance is proven wrong repeatedly. He's not the strongest. He's barely the smartest. He's just clever.
Absolute nonsense. And so not enjoyable, pulled me out as well. Added with all the other problems.
This is another problem of Chris Nolan that I have noticed is that when it comes to action scenes like that, he's not that good at it, and he's not willing to call in somebody else to kind of help handle that. If you think back to the confrontation in Dark Knight Rises, the confrontation between Batman and Bane, like
that sucked.
I remember that sucked, man. I was watching that the first time. Batman's coming in like this. Like, what is this? What is
that fight
is in this household?
That's one of the worst fights.
Yeah, he really doesn't do, especially like hand-to-hand fights like that very well. Doesn't really have the sense of the kinetic action that kind of needs to be portrayed to make it look like what you were describing, a John Wick kind of moment. And it's a weakness of his. This movie puts a lot of his weaknesses on display.
Yeah, I'd say this. I don't really go to Nolan movies for the action, like not the combat action anyway. Never once.
See, I've been completely red pilled, like whatever it is, just disillusioned by Nolan. Like I'm giving him no charity or concessions at all. I expect this film to be held to any other standard, and I'm not going to give him any excuse because his Nolan, it's his style. Like I'm seeing through the false veneer that has been trying to kind of like mislead people, fool them, whatever, to like confuse them to see if there's anything of actual substance or depth here. Well, no, this is actually a very subversive, right? Manipulative, plot hole ridden, historically inaccurate piece of crap of a film that I despise. And so
you sound delusional, man. I'm not gonna lie.
One of the other things that ruins the film is everything is basically fake. Okay, remember Nolan? He wants it to all be realistic, and so the gods, they don't actually exist. They're just delusions that Odysseus is having. Okay.
No, that's not necessarily true. The form the gods take is reminiscent of someone that Odysseus killed in the Temple of Athena, but there are things that Athena says that indicate that might be real. For example, when Odysseus lands in Ithaca, Athena is who tells him he's in Ithaca. When he takes a leap of faith by allowing himself to travel across the sea on a raft, Zeus won't let him die. Poseidon is not allowed to kill him. He has to take a leap of faith. When the crew starts having issues, it's the sea that causes problems. And you got to remember one key thing. Calypso's a goddess. Calypso is a goddess. She's not a mortal. She's a goddess. That is an example right there of a goddess in the film. Calypso is a goddess and she's there. So the gods do show up. People just forget Calypso's a goddess. That's the big thing.
might exist was Athena, but we learned that it might not actually be Athena, or it might be Athena taking the form of a slaughtered priestess that he saw being beheaded.
See, every bit of information he actually gets from Athena are things that he could have easily just assumed himself, or that him in his PTS state just told himself. All right, every single interaction with the gods is like that.
How does he know he's in Ithaca when he first wakes up and doesn't see any buildings? So it's like how do you know he's in Ithaca if there's no visual sign to him that he's in Ithaca? He's just coming to from a wreckage.
And also, every single shown fantastical element is actually an account given by Odysseus while he is in a drug-addled state. Every other on-screen scene where he's not drugged has no fantastical elements apart from his delusion in seeing Athena or a god. But there's no...
How about when he's on the raft? So here's the thing. The raft that he's on just happens to land in Ithaca without any guidance from the gods. The gods allow him to go back. But how does he do that? How about the storm? That's the problem. What about Menelaus, who is also stuck on the ocean for a long period of time? That's the thing. A lot of this stuff in the movie illustrates that there are potential elements of gods interacting with man. There's enough suggestion to illustrate that the gods do interact in this world, but the gods don't materialize in the world necessarily. But the beliefs are that gods can show up as anyone, you know? So there you go.
No, like fantastical creature, giant whirlpool, or anything like that happening. All of that are accounts from an unreliable narrator because he is in the state of being completely drugged.
I was really just like Calypso who drugged him in the first place. Like she's like they change her from like this glorious scene to she's basically a beach bum who lives in like some shack.
Yep, exactly. He actually, the whole intention behind this is to have a means to explain away every single fantastical element, all right, to somehow then say, but because the story gets told, you know, in an unreliable way, that's where the original tale comes from, is people just...
But you love Troy, which does the same thing.
Kind of making crap up, but from a genuine belief that gods do exist still. And Odysseus saying, this is what really happened because that's what the mushrooms showed me, you know? When in reality, none of it actually happened. He's just making it up in his...
No, it's actually the opposite. He says the story after getting off the drugs. The drugs keep him from remembering the story. It's the inverse. The drug influence is not remembering because the lotus memory makes you forget. It's his remembering afterwards, getting off the lotus leaves, that causes him to remember. So it's actually the opposite of what you're saying it is. The lotus leaves kept him from remembering. It fogs the mind. It's like marijuana. It's not like mushrooms.
Men died along the way because of a storm, and he ended up on a beach where some hobo chick ended up drugging him to keep him around because she liked raping him, right? And then when he...
There's no indication they have any actual sex in the movie. In the movie, though. But that beside the point. Telogamy. That's the whole thing with telogamy. But as a lost poem. So what are you gonna do? Point is that Shad is actually incorrect. It's not drug-addled. It's the opposite of that. It's getting off the drugs that makes him remember all this.
Finally wakes up to his senses. He stays there for 8 years. 8 years with this lady drugging him and raping him. Right?
7 years. What's specifics, right?
Also, a lot of things took me out of the film, even when I was watching it. Like not just the fact that they all talk like Americans. It's like there's no effort in accents or anything. Diverse crew. It's also I just really can't buy Mark Wahlberg as Odysseus.
What? Mark Wahlberg? You mean Matt Damon?
Not one bit. Sean Bean, I could, and even Ralph Fiennes, I could, but not Mark Wahlberg because he looks like Mark Wahlberg.
Matt Damon,
or no, yeah, Matt Damon.
Yeah, that was another thing that I don't think got pointed out nearly enough. We could sit here and talk about the miscasting of Elliot Page and Peter Lawanga.
Casting is
you know what took me out way more was John Bernthal as John Bernthal.
Man, that was so bad. He goes to see Menelaus and he's like, "Is this John Bernthal?"
Yeah,
he's not John Bernthal playing Menelaus.
He's fucking great. Every actor had their scene did a great job. I think John Bernthal did pretty damn good, honestly, in that movie. Just saying. It's just John. I don't even know if John Bernthal knew the cameras were running. It's just it's just John Bernthal. It's this crass blue collar redneck guy playing King Menelaus of Sparta. I don't really buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if you say so, I think you're kind of. I don't think any people will agree with you on that one. I think every single actor did pretty damn good stuff in that movie. At this point, we're getting to nitpicks. I think we're kind of wrapped it up in terms of. Is there anything else that people say that's valuable? Oh, they just lose the guy. Damn. Okay, for a bit. I think I've kind of exhausted this level of discussion here. I think we've kind of seen everything you need to see. So let's just wrap it up. I think I'm going to call it early tonight because I don't want to lose power midstream if it's like storming outside. But let's knock this off. I think we're done here. So what did we really learn from this experience with Chad and his crew watching this? I don't think they understand how storytelling works. I don't think they get what storytelling is. Because they talk about these big things as though they matter. Like, oh no, how dare John Bernthal sound like John Bernthal? Like, the Last Temptation of Christ had as Judas, what's his name? Harvey Keitel, who just talks like Harvey Keitel. Sounds like a Brooklyn accent for Judas. It's fantastic though. The movie's excellent, but it's not, doesn't sound like ancient Egypt. None of the actors, you have David Bowie in it. Like none of the actors look like they're location appropriate, but it's a great movie. Let's let some super chats play. Then we're going to wrap things up.
At 000Ojolono00 super chatted $4.95. After hearing this, Shadiversity, guy, I need to go listen to something less painful. The Macarena.
Oh yeah, my son loves that song.
At Thinavo3893 super chatted $5. They travel to the underworld meeting dead people for God's sake. Of course God exists. How do they explain that? As well as which turn men into pig.
Yep, they leave a lot of details out that Odysseus references later on, like all the stuff involving
9636 super chatted $5. On the poem, he kills 12 slave girls for sleeping with the suitors. Gee, wonder why that is cut out of the story so often.
Yeah, I can't imagine why.
Lots of stuff needs cutting. At Matcherlock9636 super chatted $5. You might say Ithaca is not worth the effort for the suitors, it is a poor kingdom.
That's very true.
However, a kingdom is a kingdom.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to cut things early because I got to... Okay, more super chats coming in.
At Mike Manhattan 93 super chatted $2. Have you read Age of Bronze by Eric Schanauer?
I have not, but now I'm curious.
At Anurin_Hunt super chatted $2.89. The whole accent complaint is just exposing people's classism and racism.
Exactly. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I see you all next time. Take care.